Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Our webinar is about to begin. Before we start, please turn off your audio. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Deli Ramadan, an academic staff of Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Indonesia, and I'll be your host for this webinar. Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar entitled Coaching Clinic on Excellent Scientific Article Writing. I would like to greet our honorable guests, the Dean of Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Indonesia, Dr. Apoteker Mahdi Jufri, Magister Science, Vice Dean for Academic, Research, and Student Affairs, Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Indonesia, Profesor Dr. Apoteker Arya Nuar, Magister Science, Vice Dean for Resources, Venture, and General Administration, Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Indonesia, Profesor Dr. Apoteker Abdul Munim, Magister Science, Chairman of Board Professors, Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Indonesia, Profesor Dr. Apoteker Hayun, Magister Science, Chairman of Academic Senate, Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Indonesia, Dr. Apoteker Iskandar Syah, Magister Science, Head of Institute for Educational Development and Quality Assurance, or LP3M, from Indonesia Defense University, Republic of Indonesia, Maijen TNI Yudi Chandra, Dean of Faculty of Military Pharmacy, Indonesia Defense University, Profesor Dr. Apoteker Yahdiana Harahap, Magister Science, Vice Dean of Faculty of Pharmacy, Indonesia Defense University, Colonel Dr. Apoteker Widiati, Master of Clinical Pharmacy, Secretary of Bachelor's in Pharmacy Program, Faculty of Military Pharmacy, Indonesia Defense University, Dr. Apoteker Timbul Partogi Haposan Simorangkir, Magister Science, Vice Dean, Faculty of Defense Management, Dr. Andes Luhut Simbolon, Magister Science, CIQNR, CIQAR, Dean of Faculty of Health Sciences, Esa Unggul University, Profesor Dr. Apoteker Aprilita Rinayanti F, Master Biomedic, Head of Pharmacy Study Program, SI Unggul University, Dr. Apoteker Sri Teguh Rahayu, Magister Farmasi. To all honorable speakers, Professor Nico P.E. Vermeulen from Vrije University, Amsterdam, Professor Doralyn S. Delcy from University of San Agustin, Philippines, and Professor Dr. Dato Ibrahim Jantan from University Kebangsaan Malaysia. Last but not least, I would also like to greet all lecturers from Universitas Indonesia, Esa Unggul University, and Indonesia Defense University, Republic of Indonesia, and of course, to all participants. Welcome to Coaching Clinic on Excellent Scientific Writing, organized by Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Indonesia, in collaboration with the Indonesia Defense University and Esa Unggul University. This webinar and coaching clinic will be held on the 4th and 5th of October 2021. The first day of this program is a webinar about writing scientific article and getting it published, how to excel it, which will be presented by our honorable speaker, Professor Nico P.E. Vermeulen. And the second topic is strategy of writing an excellent research paper, which will be delivered by Professor Doralyn S. Delcy from University of San Agustin. And the third topic is understanding and writing of article review for journal publication, presented by Professor Dr. Dato Ibrahim Jantan from UKM. The second day of this program is the coaching clinic that will be led by our honorable speakers. From this coaching clinic, it is hoped that there will be high quality articles that are ready to be published in high impact journals. But before we start this webinar, let me explain the agenda schedule for today. First is opening speech by Dean of Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Indonesia. Photo session. First talk of the webinar presented by Professor Nico. The second presentation of today's webinar presented by Professor Doralyn Delcy. Third session for this webinar, which will be delivered by Professor Dr. Dato Ibrahim Jantan, panel discussion, and closing. Without further ado, let's move to the first agenda, opening by the Dean of Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Indonesia. To Dr. Apoteker Mahdi Jufri Magister Science Apoteker, the time is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Deli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. I think good morning in Amsterdam from Nico.
Good morning to you.
Yeah. Okay. Honorable to Professor Dr. Nico Vermeulen, Professor Dr. Doralin S. Dalisai, Professor Dr. Dato Ibrahim Jantan, to Professor Dr. Ari Yanwar, Vice Dean of Academic Research and Student Affairs, to Professor Dr. Abdul Munim, Vice Dean of the General Affairs and Human Resources and Alumni, Head of the Institute of Education, Development and Quality Assurance, KLPMT3M, Indonesian Defense University of Major Jenderal TNI Yudi Chandra Jaya MA, Dean of the Indonesian Defense University, Faculty of Military Pharmacy, Professor Dr. Yahdiana Harap M.S. Apoteker, Deputy Dean of the Indonesian Defense University, Faculty of Military Pharmacy, Dr. Apoteker Widyati M. Clinical Farm, Secretary of the Bachelor of Pharmacy Study Program, Faculty of Military Pharmacy, Indonesian Defense University, Dr. Apoteker the Pathology of Haposan Simorakin, MSE, Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Defense Management, Dr. Anders Luhut Sibolon, Master of Science, Dean of the Faculty of Head of Science, Esa Unggul University, Professor Dr. Apoteker April Rina Yanti FM Biomed, Head of Pharmacy Study Program, Esa Unggul University, Dr. Sri Teguh Rahayu, M.Pharm Apoteker, Chairman of the Board, Professor, Faculty of Pharmacy, Professor Hayun MSc Apoteker, Vice Dean, Manager of Education, Student Affairs, Research and Innovation, the Community, Dr. Fadli Chinese Saputri, Manager of Cooperation Venture of Alumni Relation, and Dr. Rani Saurisari, General and Facility Manager Dr. Herman Suryadi Apoteker, and all the participants. I gladly welcome to all of you this afternoon on the coaching clinic on excellent scientific writing, which organized by the Faculty of Pharmacy, University of Indonesia. Let me begin the warmest welcome to our esteemed guest, Professor Nico P. Vermeulen from Free University, Amsterdam, Professor Doralin S. Dalisai from Center for Chemical Biology and Biotechnology, University of San Agustin, Philippines, and Professor Dato Ibrahim Jantan from Institute of System Biology, University Kebangsaan Malaysia, UKM. This event aimed to improve the competitiveness of university of not only from the contribution of quality graduates, but also from research results that are relevant to scientific development and development needs. By making of research that are worthy of publishing research results on scientific articles that can then be disseminated to the other research and the user community, the writing ability of the scientific community in Indonesia is still not optimal. Based on the existing condition in improving writing skill and willingness to write, publish scientific articles, it must be continued to be encouraged to be able to publish their work at the international level. Today's speakers will discuss a very interesting sub-theme. The first is writing scientific article and getting it published, how an excel it with Professor Nico Vermeulen, strategy of writing an excellent research paper with Professor Doralin S. Dalisai, and understanding and writing or article review for journal publication with Professor Dr. Dato Ibrahim Jantan. I am sure this webinar will provide information and increase our knowledge in improving scientific writing in the coaching clinic on excellent scientific writing event. I hope everyone will take good result from this webinar. Thank you to the all committee who provide this webinar. I open this webinar for the this afternoon. I return to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the speech, Dr. Mahdi Jufri. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to take pictures. Would you please to turn on the video and please one of the committees to guide this photo session.
Okay, I will guide this photo session for the first slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, second slide. 1, 2, 3. Third slide. 1, 2, 3. The last one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
All right, okay, thank you very much, Dr. Febrina. So I would like to inform you that if there's any questions for either our speakers during the talk, please use a Q&A box or chat box or raise your hand feature on Zoom. All questions will be answered at the end of both the 3 presentations. Questions in Bahasa Indonesia is also welcome. So now we will move to our first talk about writing scientific article and getting it published, how to excel it, which will be presented by our honorable speaker, Professor Nico P. Vermeulen from Free Universiteit Amsterdam. But before we start this talk, please allow me to read Professor Nico's CV. So Professor Vermeulen received his master's degree in chemistry from Radboud University, Nijmegen. Then he got PhD degree in pharmacology from Leiden University. And after that, he became appointed professor of molecular toxicology at VU Amsterdam. He then became the Dean of Chemistry and head of the Department of Chemistry and Pharmaceutical Sciences, as well as director of Amsterdam Institute of Molecular and Life Sciences. Since February 2018, he has become Professor Emeritus at AIMMS. His research focuses on roles molecular and computational toxicology can play in drug discovery, development, and safety assessment. He received several awards and recognitions from International Society for the Study of Xenobiotics. From 1997 to 2018, he became editor-in-chief of Environmental Toxicology and Pharmacology. Afterwards, he became editorial boards in several journals. His work has resulted in more than 450 publications. In 2010 and 2015, he was listed in ISI Highly Cited in Pharmacology and became top 1% worldwide. Based on Web of Science, his works has been cited 150220 times and get H index of 54. Sorry. Yeah, please welcome our honorable speaker, Professor Nico P. Vermeulen. The time is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So it is a great pleasure for me to participate again in this very good initiative from UI. And of course, it would have been much nicer to meet you and all my Indonesian friends face to face, but it's fully understandable that due to the corona pandemic, we have to do this online. Fortunately, I must say we can do it online. And I would like to thank Professor Madi Yufri and others organizing this clinic to invite me to lecture here in this workshop and to interact with all of you as desired. Initially, I was invited for this workshop by Dr. Eko Rifai, who very, very unfortunately passed away recently. And I can tell you that we still miss him a lot in Amsterdam. But having said so, I would like to start with my presentation. And I think the best I can do is to share it first with you, if that is okay. Yeah?
Yes,
Can I
of
start
course.
by sharing?
Yeah.
Let me try. Can you see it?
Yes, it's Jim.
And it is clear?
It's very clear. Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Then, as mentioned already, my name is Nico van Meulen, and I'm an emeritus professor at VU University in Amsterdam. And I will talk about writing a scientific paper and successful publishing in a quality journal. As you know, Amsterdam, for many of you, will look like this. It is canals, bikes, and old houses and so on. But in reality, in these days, I must say that if we look out of the lab in these days, it is looking also like this in the south of Amsterdam, where VU University is located. And what I would like to do today is, after some general introduction in VU primarily, I will touch upon trends in scientific publishing. Subsequently, I will talk about how you can prepare yourself for a good manuscript. I will briefly touch upon types and structure of scientific manuscript, and also to how to select a good journal for your purposes. And finally, it is asked to me to look at publication ethics and plagiarism, and of course some acknowledgement at the end as well. I should remind you, as mentioned already, that Professor Doralyn Delisay, good morning to you as well. Thank you. She will talk about writing a scientific research paper, so a scientific research paper. And Professor Ibrahim Yamtam, good morning to you as well. He will primarily talk about writing a scientific review paper. And that is, let's say, in total, covering the subject of today. So I was asked to pay attention to part of it, and my colleague presenters as well. So I will do it. Yes,
Excuse
please.
me, Prof. Nico. Could you please slideshow the presentation?
Yes, then I think then I will have to go back for a moment because I set it on a part of my screen, not on the whole screen.
Okay.
But should I, if so, is it not large enough, or what is it?
Yeah, it's the presenter view without a slideshow.
Okay, in that
So
case, I think
so we can
I
see every note as well.
Okay, that is not the idea. Then I have to stop the PowerPoint for a moment and change the setting of the slideshow. I thought I could use it in this session, in this setting, but then I have to do it again. I think now it will be better then. Yes. Is that better?
Yes, much better. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, so I thought I should be clever, but apparently not. Let me see. Okay, my contents I already explained to you. So here we have a brief picture or a recent picture of VU University, which indeed is, in addition to the medical faculty and the hospital, the university itself, and apart from a main building, there is an older part of the science faculties, for example, and here is the Faculty of Medicine. And recently we moved from the old building here into a new building. It's an education and research building, and in the meantime, VU University is constructing at different locations new buildings. Here, for example, is dentistry, and it is illustrating that university, although it was founded already in 1880, in those days free from state, free from church, and free from commercial interests. It, in the meantime, contains 12 faculties, first one of which was theology. Science faculty was about 70 years ago. There is about 400 PhD promotions in a year, and quite some bachelor and master programs, and many of them are in English, especially for the master programs. VU University has about 4,000 academic and support staff and 650 PhD students. And currently there is 29,000 students registered at university, of which are 4,000 from abroad. And universities in the Netherlands have been growing recently a lot, and VU as well. Of these 4,000 international students, there are quite some students from Indonesia in all programs and also in the PhD program. And if we look, let's say, to the development of the scientific journals in recent years, and this is from 2001 to 2013, it's not the most recent, but what we can see is that in total, let's say the number of journals has increased a lot, and it is about 30,000 journals in 2013, and this exponential growth, in fact, has been increasing. So it is really an important part of science and also an important commercial part of science. And if we look to the trends in scientific publishing, then in the early days, when I was young, or not so young yet anymore, there was only print science journals. And we had to go to library to make copies of articles we wanted to read. And in 10 years later, in 2009, more than half was electronic already, and 25% print only, and 20% print and electronic. And in 2014, in fact, 95% was electronic only, and especially in life sciences, over 99% was electronic already. And from 2017 onwards, really open access publishing has become more important. So we see a changing role of scientific journals due to the electronic access. The use of articles and downloads has also been increasing, but it seems that the use of the articles is less in depth than on paper. So the electronic submission has increased as well, but that also led to increased rejections. The experimentation with new publishing models has been tested, including author-based models and delayed open access, and I will illustrate that in a moment. The experimentation with new publication types has also led to more exposure, more data reuse, and more flexibility. And if we look to the types of journals in these days, the traditional journal really is sent to the publisher. The manuscript is sent to the publisher. You have to provide to them your copyrights, and then the publisher is putting it into a subscription-based journal, and these subscriptions cost money, and so the access is only to the subscriber. The subscription, and there is also possibility to have a delayed or a temporary open access, but ultimately it is protected again. And more recently, we had the open access strategy, which in fact allows you to keep the copyrights for the publication. And there is different types of open access, and the gold open access, in fact, publishes articles, and it is published in open access articles, and in fact, all articles, and also is free for everybody. And on the other hand, there is also hybrid journals which publish some articles open access and others are, let's say, behind walls. So basically from traditional publishing, it is open access or gold open access publishing. There is also green open access publishing, and that is that your article is a certain moment free for access, and later it is either protected or open, and that is called the green open access. The next slide, yes. So that means that open access is free, immediately online available, and the rights to use for the articles are open in a digital environment. In fact, open access assures that anyone can access these results. And usually, let's say, it leads to more views than in the other traditional situation. So, and why would it be important for you to publish papers? And of course, it can be various reasons for yourself. It may be that you want to have a PhD degree, that you can get funding for research. But in several countries, including Indonesia, I think it is also part of being promoted. It helps you to be promoted. And there may also be other reasons for you personally to publish the manuscripts. But it's also important for your institute. It gives the institute recognition. It increases the ranking of the scientific ladders. It helps funding, and is also good for the image of the university. However, you have to realize that editors, reviewers, and research community does not consider these reasons. They are just interested in your work and not in your personal ideas and, let's say, motivations. Of course, the first of all, when you publish research, is that you have to have good research results. You have to have an idea, you have to do research, find a solution, have to find something which is valuable, and no interest in things which are not valuable or which are not ethical, for example, to do research. And then the question is what to publish. Publishing is one of the necessary steps embedded in scientific research. It is also necessary for your graduation and career progression, as I mentioned. And what to publish has to be new and original. You may also publish reviews, as you will hear later from Prof. Ibrahim. And you may have manuscripts that really advance the knowledge and the understanding in a certain research field. Things not to publish are reports, for example, with no scientific interest, or out-of-date work, or duplications of previously published work, or incorrect and unacceptable conclusions should not be published. So you need a strong and effective manuscript to present your contributions to the scientific community. Then the question is, what is a good manuscript? First of all, it should contain good scientific content, and it should be a clear presentation of the data. It should be novel, useful, and exciting data and message, and it should be presented and constructed in a logical manner. Reviewers and editors should be able to grasp the scientific significance easily, and that is important to realize, because you have to realize that editors and reviewers are all busy scientists, and so you have to make things easy for them to save their time and to publish your manuscript successfully. And what to do before starting your publication, your manuscript preparation. So I think too many researchers have abandoned all values of the libraries when they stopped going there physically. And you also have to realize that there is more than Google and the internet. So you really have to learn what the sources in these days are available at your institute, and you have to learn to use it in a clever way. Is it online? Then you should consider online. If it is on paper, then you should do it on paper. When you are interested in advanced search options, you can use indeed Google and Google Scholar. They have advanced searches, and you can check search tips, but also Science, Scopus, Web of Science, PubMed, and other databases use search opportunities to efficiently search through the literature. So you really should look at the opportunities and the possibilities of these databases, which in a number of cases are free of charge, and in other cases your institute have to pay for it. And the questions you have to ask yourself before you write a manuscript is, I think, that first of all, is it new and interesting? And if the answer is yes, then the question is it a hot topic? Have you provided solutions to some difficult problems? And are you ready to publish at this point? And if all answers are positive, then you should start preparation. And it means that apart from data analysis, journal selection, writing the manuscript, checking and rewriting, submission, resubmission, acceptance, and ultimately publication is taking place. So altogether, it takes several months before you can really, let's say, have your work published. You have to plan it carefully. And in addition to full articles, there is letters or rapid communications or short communications or even case reports. There is review papers and perspectives. And there is new types of manuscripts like micro articles or software articles or graphical reviews. So self-evaluate your work. Is it sufficient for a full article? Do you want to experiment with your new articles and try to publish a new target audience? And it's always good to ask your supervisor and your colleagues for your advice if you are not used to publishing yet on what the best journal and what the best manuscript type you should go for. There is some general principles and things you should not do when publishing. First of all, the list of authors. There is the first author, there is the corresponding author or a senior author, and the order of the authors may also be important. And often the first author is the one who really had the idea, did the research, and puts the paper together, primarily as a first one. And the senior author or the corresponding author can be from the institute. He has to approve the publication and to approve the publication. And particularly when the first author is a PhD student or a postdoc, there may be rules in the institution, but in our case, it is always so that the first author is the PhD student. What you should not do is ask someone else to write your manuscript. So ghost authorships are not worth. And you should not leave out authors who should have been included. But you should not put in authors who did not contribute to the manuscript significantly. And for the selection of candidate journals, you can look first of all to your the references you were using for a manuscript, and you can review recent publications in several candidate journals to find out whether, let's say, your subject is fitting and whether it's sufficiently hot topic to be accepted in that journal. So important is to ask yourself whether the journal is peer-reviewed, what the audience is of the journal, how fast publication and decision-making is, what the impact metrics of the journal are. I will show that in a minute. And do you want to publish open access or need to publish open access, which is in some cases also. Does it really exist or is it dubious, the journal, I mean? So really check archived versions of the manuscript. And as to the best journal, you can investigate all candidate journals to find out, let's say, the aims and the scope, the accepted type of articles, the impact factor, their readership, and if possible, new types of papers. And here is, for example, let's say in your area, a journal which is quite good. It has an impact factor, a site score here of 5.2. You can see, let's say, the scope of the journal. And you can also go through some previous publications, download it and have a look at it. So it's important to look for the aims and the scope, it should be correct, and also the readership and the type of paper should be considered. I already mentioned that there is open access, and there is good reasons to publish open access. For example, the fact that it is accessible for all public, that it is valuing taxpayers' money. It is also accessible in researchers from developing countries. It is giving you a lot of exposure because it is freely available, and it often gives higher citation rates than the traditional publishing because it is freely available. And I know that there is an organization from Indonesian universities, indeed, who also promotes open access publication. And to show you some bibliometric indicators, there is, first of all, the impact factor and the H-index I wanted to briefly mention to you. The others are specific indicators, but I think it is sufficient for this moment if I'm talking about the impact factor, which is the average number of citations per article in a journal. And for example, the impact factor of 2014 of a journal is calculated as follows. It is the number of articles published in the 2 years before and cited in 2014. And secondly, it is the number of citable items or articles or reviews or proceedings in the journal over these 2 years. And the impact factor is the number of publications divided by the number of citable articles. And that means that, for example, in such a case, this impact factor may be 2 in the case of 600 publications. And the H-index is more for personal use or also for others to get an impression of your publication record. And that is a factor determining the quantity and the quality of a scientist's output. And it is the number of papers someone published, and secondly, the number of citations which it gave. And the article which is equal to the citations which is equal to the number in the list is the H-index. And I can give you an example. I gave the example of myself. I have in total this number of articles in Web of Science. In fact, these led to 15,000 publications, citations, I must say, 14,000 without self-citation. And the H-index calculated is 54. That means that my 54th paper in my list of publications has 54 citations. That is, in fact, the impact factor. And you can see here the number of citations. In some years in the past, it has been high, but currently, and now I'm emeritus, is reducing a bit because I'm not preparing new publications, or not many anymore. You can also use Google Scholar. And the interesting thing is that in Google Scholar, the number of citations is always higher, and the H-index is also higher than Web of Science. So Web of Science is more science-based, and Google Scholar, in fact, uses all citations to your work. And you can see here, and I will come back to this one a little bit later, that our best citing paper is a review paper from Ron van der Hoost, the previous PhD student, published in 2003, and in the meantime has 4,670 citations in the Google list, which is extremely high, but for a review paper, in some cases, reachable. The impact factors are in different areas of research, such as fundamental life sciences, much higher than, for example, in certain more dedicated areas, such as mathematical and computer sciences. So that is what you have to realize, that the area of research really contributes to the impact factor. And here I have some impact factors of important journals. In my area, toxicology, is already from a number of years ago, a review journal are higher, and let's say scientific journals are generally lower. Of course, Nature and Nature dedicated journals are much higher impact than, let's say, the dedicated toxicology journals. But both in pharmacology and in toxicology journals, I think when you have an impact factor higher than 3, you are really publishing in a good journal. As to the Indonesian situation, it is interesting that the number of papers is increasing over the years a lot as well. There is some scientific papers, in fact, on this subject. And it's interesting to see, at least that is what I found, that in Asia, let's say Malaysia has the highest number of academic articles in Scopus, but Indonesia is rapidly increasing. And this increase is indeed, let's say, increasing over the years, over the recent years as well. And there was also in 2012 this table with the institutes publishing most. And I see here that University of Indonesia is on the 2nd place in this row. Maybe this has increased at the moment, I do not know, but UI is doing quite well in this list. Also important to identify your right audience. The readership should be okay. And that is what you have to find out first. Get advice from your university library and ask your supervisor and others in your institute. And as to the type of research articles, I'm asking now for a moment how much time there is still left for me. Can you tell me how much time there is still left?
It's about let me take it
10 minutes?
again.
10 minutes?
Yeah,
We started 10 minutes, then it,
yeah,
then
yeah.
it's
10
okay.
minutes. 10 minutes. You're right. Thank you.
Okay, then that's fine. Then I briefly finish, let's say, the typical structure of a research article. In addition to title, abstract, keywords, there is also the main text body, which always should contain an introduction, a methods, results, and discussion session. But there should be also a conclusion, an acknowledgement, references, and supplementary data. This is the typical structure of a research article, and Professor Doralin will, let's say, touch upon these items later. But as to the keywords, it is important, and the title and the abstract, it is very important because it is important for indexing and for searching. And the other part, you should realize that the reader's time is scarce. So make your article as concise as possible. it is more difficult than you think to make a concise article. So you have to really think on the fact that the journal space is limited. And I mentioned these items already, and basically the best thing is to start with figures and tables. So that is your data. Then with the methods and the results and the discussion. Then the inclusion, the conclusion, and the introduction, and ultimately the title and the abstract. So the most important, in fact, is your figures and tables covering your data. And you have to realize that there is, for a manuscript publication, at least 6 phases. And you should consider it as a project. First of all, you should be enthusiastic for publishing. But you should also realize that it can be disappointing if it is too difficult or if it is rejected. There may be situations in which you panic, in fact, that you are afraid you will never finish your paper or your PhD thesis. It is not always good to search for the guilty one, because often it is your own performance. And you should not publish the innocent ones, but consider what is the real reason that it doesn't work properly. And ultimately, you can praise and honor, let's say, those who did not participate in your exercise. And that is some of the emotional stages during publication. So in total, let's say, if you summarize this, always follow your supervisor's advice, obey the editor's instructions. The first sentence would be the most important if it was not the last sentence, which means that every sentence in the manuscript is important. It should be concise for many reasons, and you write for the reader and not for yourself. So, but the most important is that your research is impactful and of a high quality. The review process will be touched upon later as well. But in a scheme, let's say there is an area where you as author, subsequently the editor and the reviewer are important. And basically, after you writing your manuscript and submitting it to the journal, you really have to rely on the editor, who will assign a number of reviewers. They will review and give recommendations, give it back again, and then the editor is making a decision, and the decision may be accept or a revision is required. Then you have to revise your paper, submit it again, and often the whole procedure, including referees, is taking place again. So this takes time, you have to realize, and it is not an easy barrier to be taken. I was editor-in-chief of environmental toxicology for quite a number of years, and I had a number of standard reasons to reject a paper, often outright. So that means that before they went to the referee, I already considered a number of criteria. For example, too many and partly too old or missing recent references. Too few really new data and new concepts, which is essential for the journal. Or the manuscript is better suited for a phyto, food, or pharmacological journal and not a toxicological. And the plant material, important in our case as well, is tested as a mixture and relatively poorly characterized. And thus the experiments are difficult to be repeated by other scientists. Moreover, it is difficult to causally relate the observed effects to an individual compound. This was a reason in our journal often to be used for, let's say, rejection. Too few really molecular mechanistic interpretations and concepts, also in view of the recent literature. And importantly, a cross-check analysis of the text for this journal, currently performed routinely, showed that 34% of the text, references and quotes excluded, was identical to a previously published paper. And if the percentage is higher, then I consider that too much and not allowed. And that means that the journal was not, the manuscript was not accepted for review. And aside, I did like referees to be suggested, and they were sometimes only from their own institute or from their own country. And that, of course, is not useful for an editor. And finally, we were receiving too many manuscripts, which was an additional reason to be critical in that context. Then my last, let's say, subject, and that is publications ethics. And as authors, we have lots of rights and privileges, but we also have duties, and that is that we have to take the responsibility to be ethical. And there is different issues here. First of all, scientific misconduct, and that is mentioned to be falsification of results or images. But there is also publication misconduct, and that is, for example, plagiarism. I will explain that in a minute. Duplicate submission or publication, explain that in a minute. And appropriate acknowledgement of prior research and researchers is missing. And appropriate identification of all co-authors or conflict of interest is also considered as publication misconduct. And here was a case in 2005 of Professor Wang, and he in fact cloned research, and he really was punished for that a lot. And he was a world-leading stem cell scientist, saying he had cloned the first dog, but in fact he fabricated his work, and it was discovered by a university investigation into his research. And he in fact was blamed a lot, and he lost his job, as I understand. And here are some of the copied pictures he published from others, in fact, and which were not correctly performed. So plagiarism is considered a serious offense, both by your institute, by the journal editors, and also by the scientific community. So it's really something to be aware of, that it is broadly, let's say, considered bad. And plagiarism may also result in academic charges, but it certainly will cause rejection of your paper. But you may also lose your job or otherwise, at least in our country. Plagiarism will hurt your reputation in scientific community. So that's really something which should not be done. And I know that a company like Elsevier has several plagiarism schemes for all manuscripts, and they are automatically checked against 30 million peer-reviewed articles before the manuscript is taken into the reviewing procedure. So that I could do myself easily as well, and I always did it. So more traditional approaches also happen by editors and reviewers, by your colleagues or readers or other whistleblowers even. So the walls have ears in this case. So it means that it's not only the editor and publisher, but also others, which may help elucidating plagiarism. And I have one typical example from my own experience, and that is this review article. I'm almost finished. And that is published in 2003 in our own journal. And that is fish bioaccumulation and biomarkers for environmental risk assessment. And in fact, Ron van der Oost, who did his PhD degree in 2003, he wrote this review together with someone from Norway and myself. And I must tell you that this article was reviewed really top. And strong points of it were that it is very comprehensive. It took us, let's say, at least 4 months to have it prepared. It was conceptually very strong. It had very, very illustrative figures and tables, which are often used in lectures and other presentations. It is really a library of references on this subject. It was new and timely, and at this moment it has more than 4,500 citations, as I mentioned. And this paper, in fact, was published in 2013 again, but by someone from India. And he is a principal scientist and a director of a research institute in India. And in fact, by comparing the text of this article, it appeared that 89% of his article was identical to our article. Only he had added a few of his own references at the end of each paragraph, but it was fully copied and published in another journal. So I approached Elsevier. Elsevier approached the editor of the Plant Archives. They approached the author, and the paper was withdrawn. And in fact, the argument of the author was that one of his master students had prepared the manuscript, and he did not realize that it was copy-paste. And that is, of course, not a good argument when you are the only author, even not thanking his master student in the paper of such a plagiarism case. Okay. There is also duplicate publications. Let me not discuss this redundantly. It is 2 or more papers without full cross-references, and they share the same content and the hypothesis and data and so on. But altogether, duplicate publication is also not done and not considered in an ethical way. So in summary, what I did in this presentation, I gave you some scientific trends in scientific publishing. I described how you should prepare yourself for a good manuscript, how to select a good journal for your own purposes, how to compose at least the structure of your manuscripts, and details of this will be discussed by Prof. Doralin and Prof. Ibrahim for the research and review papers, and how to submit the manuscript and to handle the peer review process. And I briefly touched upon, let's say, plagiarism and publication ethics. I should acknowledge some people from Elsevier and others, colleagues of mine, who helped me in preparing this work. And there is in the presentation several references referring to their contribution. And altogether, I think I should thank also my group, who in fact helped me publishing so many papers in the past. We were in 2015 having a party in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. And then the group was like this one. In September 2017, Professor Paul Jennings took over from me January 1st, 2018, in fact, and he started with 5 new PhD students and postdocs. And in the meantime, I like and continue being emeritus. I also should thank all contributors to our research. And having said so, I should finish this, and I understand that the questions and answers will be done at the end of this session. So altogether, I would like to thank you very much for your interest and for listening to me. And I'm happy to answer questions now, or as I mentioned, later. So I'd like to give the floor back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your brilliant presentation, Professor Nico. So please give a virtual applause for Professor Nico Vermeulen. And let's move to the next agenda. We will have our second session entitled Strategy of Writing an Excellent Research Paper, which will be delivered by Prof. Dorlin S. Delisay from University of San Agustin. But before we start the second session, please allow me to read the CV of Professor Dorlin. So Professor Dorlin graduated from University of San Agustin with a degree in pharmacy, cum laude, and earned her Master of Science in at the University of the Philippines in the Visayas. In 2001, she joined the laboratory of Professor Staffan Kelleberg at the University of New South Wales to complete her doctoral studies in microbiology. She is a pioneering scientist to work on the biodiversity, biological activities, and chemistry of marine sediment-derived actinobacteria from Philippine archipelago. She has won a number of awards in recognition for her research, publications, and patents. One of them is 2019 Most Outstanding Professional in the Field of Pharmacy awarded by Philippine Regulatory Commission. Prof. Dorlin has published research papers in high-impact journals. Her publication received more than 2,500 citations, and her Scopus H index is 22. It's very great H index. So please welcome our honorable speaker, Professor Dorlin S. Delisay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deli, for that very kind introduction. So first of all, I would like to thank Professor Manny Dufree for inviting me to this e-conference or e-webinar on coaching and how to write a scientific report. It would be nice if we are doing this face-to-face. I remember I was in Universitas Indonesia 2 years ago doing the same thing, and now pandemic won't stop us to do our work, which is to publish our scientific work, and still we are doing this online. And I'm very happy too to see my colleagues here, Professor Nico Vermeulen and Professor Datu Ibrahim Jantan. Good afternoon to you both. And it is really nice to hear from Professor Nico Vermeulen regarding all these aspects and how to write scientific reports. I like the way he emphasized more on the ethics and the responsibilities of authors in writing the manuscript. So this afternoon, I am tasked, I hope I can share my slide here. I am tasked to give a lecture, e-lecture on the strategy and writing an excellent research paper. So here, my overview of my lecture. So I was tasked to give this lecture on scientific research, the type of research that we have, research questions, so how to conduct a good research, and eventually how to write a research paper. So before anything else, I am not as prolific writer as Professor Nico. I am very new to the career of science, and I've learned a lot regarding the topic that he presented a while ago. And sure enough, I learned a lot of things into that, and I will note that in my future writing for my scientific papers. So the first thing that we need to develop whenever we write something is to develop the question. We are doing research because there is a question that we need to ask, and this question is scientifically driven. So to develop a question, the first thing that we need to do is to start a clear purpose. What is the purpose? Are you trying to to um, to solve a hypothesis or a problem that will serve a gap between one theory to another theory? So you need to start a very clear purpose. And in order to have that clear purpose, you need to know your literature. That's why I encourage everyone to read the literature. As Professor Nico was saying, we are bombarded with a lot of papers, especially nowadays that there are a lot of open access journals that are open for everyone. And so read your literature. So make it a habit. So every night before you go to sleep, you read at least one or two papers pertaining to your topic. And then know what is in there, what's new, what is old, what has been done. And from there you can get or create a clear purpose or to start a clear purpose of your scientific question. So be iterative in your approach. So meaning you have all this information, all knowledge that you have there, and so you have to be iterative in that approach. So you have to specify the who, the what, the where, and when. When is the purpose of that question? And it is always important to ask what would be the answer to this question that should be added in the literature. Take note that we are writing or publishing paper because we want to add to a body of knowledge. And that is the most important thing that we should ask ourselves. What would be the answer to the question that you could add into in the literature? So, and because of that, don't let methodology drive the question. Take note that we sometimes when we do our research, we are always very particular in the methodology. Take note that the methodology is just a tool. It's a tool to help you answer the question. And so the most important thing, don't let that methodology drive the question. It should be a question that is driven with right information from the literature, the gaps that you have found in the literature, and so therefore that's how you need to develop a research question. So the research process is a process. It is not a one night thing. It is a process. It takes years. It takes months, and it even takes a decade to solve some scientific questions. And so a research process first it is a process that first you need to identify the general problem. What is your question? That's why most of us who are independent investigators or principal investigators, we have our own research program. And our research program is very is where our expertise are. We are trained to be an expert on that. And so this research program is the one that guides us in solving our problem. So we have research program. So first you have to identify the question. Next you have the literature review. You specify questions and hypothesis. So what's your hypothesis in the first place? Why are you doing this? And of course, in order to validate or support or answer that hypothesis, you need to come up with a good design. And designing a scientific research is very, very important. Otherwise, what you will be doing is you test this, you test that, you test this, you test that. And there is no direction exactly where you want to go. So you will be wasting your time, you will be wasting your resources, and most especially you will be wasting your effort in answering a question. So you decide it. Of course, in the course of the process, you may modify some of, or you may modify the design because the method that you have applied might not be applicable to the current situation. So that's where you can also modify your design. But always take note that you have to start with a design and methodology. You need to come up with a good data collection, whether that is experimental, analytical, and some sort of that, which I'm going to present later on in details. Also, we need to have a data analysis plus the presentation. This is the most important thing. And perhaps one area that most people or most researchers or scientists fail to publish their work is that they were not able to convey the data that they have in the paper. So meaning the data analysis and the presentation is very, very important. And so the interpretation of the findings is also very important. So these are the 7 research processes that you need to consider whenever you're going to do a scientific research or a scientific paper. So what are the types of the scientific research? So it really depends. And there are many types of scientific research based on factors. For example, according to the data that you collect, what the techniques, there is what we call as the observational, or you call this as qualitative, or it could be experimental, which is also called quantitative. So the collection technique is the one that describes this approach, observational and experimental. And most of us in natural sciences research, whether it's pharmacy or interdisciplinary sciences, our research or scientific research is always experimental. And which I'm going to discuss more into this, the difference between qualitative and quantitative research. And also scientific research can be classified according to the causality of the relationship. It could be descriptive or analytical, which boils down again to experimental and observational. Another is according to the relationship of time. So meaning, so time here is an important thing. And so this is more of a research that is done by social scientists, some other clinicians, for example, medical doctors, looking into how diseases now is compared to diseases or the prognosis of the disease 50 years ago or 20 years ago. So according to time, there are 3 types of scientific research. It could be retrospective, prospective, or cross-sectional. And according to the medium which they are applied, the scientific research can be classified into clinical, laboratory or social descriptive research, which is more of, again, this is more of the social science. So in the next slides, what I'm going to focus more is on the qualitative or the quantitative approach or type of research. And because this is very important, and this is the research that we are doing. With the quantitative, as a researcher's role, we have to detach from the study in order to avoid biases. Sometimes, in my case, when I have a treatment, for example, in the treatment experiment, sometimes I will have to put it blind because, we really do not know what's going on, particularly if the principal investigator is there all the time. It's not there all the time. So sometimes students may falsify results. And so with this, my technique usually when I do research is that when I do experiment, I put it as a blind treatment, for example, or a blind sample, so that there will be no falsification of reports or results. And so with the qualitative, we have to detach ourselves in the study in order to avoid biases. Unlike with the qualitative, for you to understand the meaning or the situation and the phenomenon that you are being studied, you need to have an immersion. You need to know the situation. You need to know you need to be in the situation in order to provide a result and also and interpret the result and thus also your discussions in your topic. Another one is with the times with the context. With the qualitative, this is a context-free generalization. But in qualitative, the generalization is very contextual. So it's contextually bound. Unlike with the quantitative, we do not have a context that we make our study bound into this work, because ours is driven with data that are measurable. When it comes to precision, this is again in case of the natural scientists. Their natural science work and its interdisciplinary science or field, we obtain the data through the use of measurement and statistics. We always have this. We are more scientifically driven, and so we rely on measurements. That's why we have several trials, we have several replicates in our work. One trial is not good. The thing that we should do is 3x3, meaning triplicates in 3 trials. If you have enough compound, then go the 3x3. And if you do not have enough, then perhaps you can have like 3x2. But do not force your data to make it right by forcing it into 4x5, for example. You keep on trying to do it again and again in order to lower down your standard deviation or sometimes your standard error. And that is not the way science in the first place to do with the quantitative approach, because meaning you are trying to make your data look nice by doing the different types of trials in order to get a good and substantial data that is also good when it comes to standard deviation and standard error. So we obtain it through measurement and statistics. You need to remember that. But in qualitative, it's more provided with a detailed description of phenomena. So the qualitative, this is more of a social scientist kind of work. There are also some natural scientists, particularly in the pharmacy research, when you do all this uh, public health research. And so in the qualitative, the precision there is driven by the description of the phenomenon instead of measurement or statistics. So when it comes to verification, this is the one that I mentioned before. The results are replicated. The results must be replicated by others. That's why when we publish our papers, the methods must be in details with the goal that others has to replicate your work, especially when the method that you use is as being created in your lab, and so everything has to be provided. um, I remember one time we were following one assay, and we weren't able to replicate it based on the standard compound. It is because the pH of the reaction mixture was not detailed. It's what was not indicated in the method. And so even though we thought that these conditions are just ordinary, but they are very important, especially when you have methodology that you want others to replicate. So you have to provide more details on those. If you modify the method from another paper, then you need to also disclose what modification have you provided there. And so the difference for qualitative, the verification is that an extension of understandings of others. So there will be more sample number of individuals that you need to work into in order to verify your work. So the conditional conclusions for quantitative, this statement is supported by statistical probability. That's why most of the time right now when we are driven with big data analysis is very important, and it is supported with different types of statistical method that will support the conclusion in that particular research. However, in qualitative, the conditional conclusion, there is a tentative, it's all tentative summary interpretations of what has been done. So you will see that this is the difference between the observational and then the which is the qualitative, and the quantitative, which is the measured type of a research or scientific research. So once you have that particular research in mind, the next thing that you need to do is to write your manuscript. And I'm going to teach you in my own new way on how to write a manuscript in high impact journal. So the first thing that you need to ask is, which Professor Nico also emphasized, is that do you have a story to tell? And if you do, is it original? Is it original? Meaning, is it a duplicate of another paper or not? That's why when we publish paper, you will see that, for example, if you are a reviewer or an editor, guest editor in a paper, many publishers right now has this AI in the system that will determine whether the work has a duplicate. For example, this is a similar, they will say there's a window that comes out to see whether there is a duplication of the paper. For example, 50% similar, 80% similar, 15% similar, and those numbers are red flag. Take note that if it's 80% similar, how could that be original? So make sure that your work is original and it's innovative. Is it using a state-of-the-art instrument? If it does, so what is innovation? The innovation that goes with it. Does it answer immediate science versus say a societal impact? And so you need to balance it. We are scientists, we are researchers, but the end point of our manuscript, of our research, is for the society. And so you have to ask yourself, is there a societal impact? If there is a societal impact, is this impact supported by the science that you are doing? So that's the first question. Second question, do you have an audience to tell it to? Who will read your research? There are journals that are only published within our country, like for example in Indonesia or in the Philippines, that impacts immediate problems or societal problems in our own country. So you have to weigh things. Is your audience local or international? Are you trying to write a paper which is a full article, or it's a letter, or it's a rapid or short communication or review? So Professor Ibrahim later on will talk about how to write all the review paper. And so these are the types of manuscripts that you need to understand and to know, so that you need to fit yourself in what aspect are you going to write your manuscript. First, you have to choose the appropriate journal. This is one thing that I usually do. If I have a good data and I have a story to tell, the first thing that I need to do is to look for the appropriate journal. It is just like looking for a job or looking for like your job search or a literature research. So it is not just one day of finding it. The appropriate journal selection also takes time. That's why you need to put a lot of time to find it, because each journal has its own aims and scope, and make sure that your manuscript is within the scope or within the aims of that journal. Otherwise, it will be rejected right away without any review. So moving on, I will share to you some of our recent work. I am very quite blessed because when I moved to the Philippines from the US, I thought I would not be able to publish papers in high impact journals. And I am very glad that I was able to do it. In the last 3 or 4 years that I was back in the Philippines, I have demonstrated that even though we are a third world country and our research is not as far at par with other countries in the whole world like US and Europe, still we were able to publish papers in high impact journal. This was published in last month, in August 31st. And another paper that we recently published 3 weeks ago was in Scientific Reports from the Nature Publishing. These are all Filipino authors, and this was done here in the center where I am the director. And I'm very happy that we were able to publish this type of research. And with that, when we wrote this paper, we were able to write it based on what is needed. And I'm going to tell you the secret and how to write these papers in high impact journal. So take note that a scientific publication, the object of research is to extend the human knowledge beyond what is already known. Because what's the point if it's already known? It's a duplication. It's not original. Take note that originality is very important. But an individual's knowledge, as it enters the domain of science, only after it is presented to others, in such a fashion that they can be independently judged its validity. So this is a very nice phrase, quotation that I got from a journal map of Being Scientist in 1995. And this talks more about the scientific publication. So it is only after it is presented to others that they can be independently judge its validity. That's why it's good to have our papers reviewed by other experts, because we will learn from them, and do not take it too seriously. I was smiling when Professor Nico was showing the emotions that comes with the process of writing the manuscript. You know, the enthusiasm, the disappointment, the frustration that comes with it. But you know what? That's part of the game. So you need to be used to that. Otherwise, if we will not let our science or our manuscript be reviewed by other people, who would validate that? Who would judge that? So the only community who could judge that is the community of experts and the community of scientists where our field belongs. So publishing is one of the necessary steps embedded in the scientific research process. So what is publishable? So scientific journals like the published papers that are going to be widely read and useful to others. So it must be original and significant. It should be well organized and well written with clear statements. If you were listening to Professor Nico a while ago, he said every word in the manuscript is very important. So don't be too verbose. Don't put unnecessary words here because what you need is to provide a clear statement regarding how the findings relate to and advance the understanding of development of the subject. The paper also has to be concise and yet it has to be complete. That's why we do not want a salami slicing type of work. It should be complete because of course we know that as an academics, we need to publish papers a lot. Take note that in the paper that we just published in scientific reports, I think if I will do the salami slicing type of research, that paper would be good for 5 papers. But yet it was accepted because I think it is complete and it was written in a very concise manner as with the presentations and analysis of the data. So you need to have all these things: originality, original significance, well organized and well written, concise and complete. What is not publishable? Reports with no scientific interest. Take note that we are scientists, researchers that are driven by scientific questions. And so if there is no scientific interest, don't bother write it. Don't bother write the report because they are not good or not publishable. Out of date work. So out of date, it's like it is not relevant with the current situation. That's the key here. Out of date work. That even when you do the review, writing the review, make sure that the review paper is relevant and there is also updated work in that review. Duplications of previously published work and incorrect and unacceptable conclusions, which I'm going to discuss later. So this is our author's responsibility. So this is the follow general rule to follow. It is original, it is new. All authors must be aware of submission. So meaning right now, all authors that are in that paper, when you submit in a journal, the journal requires an email address so that they will also be prompted. Hey, you have a paper here. There's a paper or manuscript submitted here with the names. So with your name on it. And so you make sure that all of the authors we have agreed, otherwise they will be surprised that their paper is in that manuscript, which in the first place, they were able to read the paper. Follow the instructional guidelines for submission. That's why I said finding the right journal is like finding the right job. You need to read the goals, the aims, plus the author's guidelines. It is very, very important because when you miss something there, perhaps in the first 2 days or 3 days of technical review, your paper will be rejected because you were not following the instructional guidelines for submission. Again, agree that the manuscript can be examined by anonymous reviewers, which is the case, right? You are submitting it because you agreed that your paper will be examined. You provide copies of related work submitted or published elsewhere if they require to. You obtain copyright permission if you have figures and tables that need to be reproduced, and you need to include proper calculation and contact information, because even after your manuscript has been published, there will be emails that you will receive about the manuscript. So you write backwards, write the following order, and this is what I always follow. You cannot write something that starts with the title or starts with the abstract or even the introduction. You make sure that the figures and the tables are the first thing that you need to put your attention. Figures and tables. Make sure that the table is well presented, because the table can tell a story about what you are going to write. The tables and figures will give you the plot of what you are going to write. So start from there. Make sure that your figures and tables are in agreement in agreement, or you're following the figures and tables instructed in the journal. So you start from there, and from there next followed by the methods, results, and the discussion, and then conclusion and introduction and the abstract, and the title is the last. So each section has a definite purpose. And you know, as what Professor Nico was saying, writing a manuscript is a process. It takes months. In my experience, when we write the scientific reports, it took us 8 months to write the draft and revision, and we had a 30-second revision of that paper that just came out before we submitted it. That's why I'm very proud that one of the reviewers commented that the paper can be published in its original form, because we make sure that everything was done right. And I would like to encourage everyone to do it yourself. If I can do it, you do it. The secret is to write it, revise, write, revise, read, revise, read, revise. And that's how it is. The chances of rejection is very, very high if you have not ironed out everything from figures, tables, methods, conclusions, introduction, abstract to title. So I'll go next here. So the title, be creative, to catch the attention of the readers. Compose the title that is simple, yet it is attractive, accurate, and it reflects the integration of your work. Avoid study, like for example, avoid phrases, investigation, study, novel, high efficiency, something like that. So please avoid that. And also avoid acronyms. So seek feedback from other researchers. That's why when we are writing a manuscript, we have at least 5 possible options for titles. And we sit down and then we discuss, is this a first option reflects the manuscript or not? So it is good that you have a group of researchers or your colleagues to sit down and find the title for your work, as long as first they read the whole manuscript, because you cannot create a title if you have not read the whole manuscript. So the key points here, this will give an impression of the quality of your work, and it will also make others be interested in reading your work. So there are 3 key points. You have the keywords, the emphasis, and then the impact when you have all the titles. So the key point here is to describe the topic of your article. So readers use keywords or phrases to search terms when searching for articles. That's why most journals right now ask for keywords, about 4 or 5 or 6 keywords. And these keywords, it's used for searching your articles. So choose keywords that will help others search your work. That way they will cite your paper in the future. So it will help others find your articles. So emphasis, it means that making sure that this is the most important aspect of the article. So the emphasis must be there. The titles must be brief, and because the reader attention is fleeting. So take note, they read quickly, so it should be brief. Some journals will have, like, for example, 20 words or 18 words. It depends really on the journal. So when you read that, pay attention to emphasis, because it helps you to make the most of the title and conveys the most important point. And it will also describes the information without triggering exaggeration and without triggering vagueness on the paper. So the impact, a title with impact communicates why I should read your paper. Why should I read your paper? So you need to have a very catchy title, just like title of movies. Why do you have read that? Why do you have to watch that movie in Netflix in the first place? So it needs to have an impact because it will catch the attention of the readers. So the impact on the title may indicate novelty and innovation and how your work will affect in the field. So these are the don'ts. Don't use abbreviation. The full term is more useful for keywords or key phrase searching. Another thing, do not use the word on study or effects, because these will dilute the strength of the title and they will add bulk without any meaning. Take note, again, I will emphasize what Professor Nico has said before. Every word in the manuscript is important. So do not dilute it with any words that do not put a value into the manuscript. So don't let your title become too long. Some journals don't allow you to do that. So when you write abstracts, so there are some journals that the abstracts can be structured. You have the introduction, you have the materials and methods, the results, and the conclusion. So it really depends. Some other journals, they don't follow that structure. So what is the purpose? The purpose of this is to introduce journal articles. This is also the first part of the paper that people read before they put more of their time in reading the whole paper. So you make sure that the abstract is well written. This will inform the readers about the article's content. It will help readers to decide whether or not they will read the article. That's why when you do to PubMed, you include the title and then the abstract. You read those abstract, you click those that you think you put time to read. But for those you don't need, then you disregard that. And that's the purpose of abstract. So it's an overview also in conference programs, abstract collections, and book chapters. So what you should write in abstract? It helps you to present complex information in a clear and concise manner. Take note that some abstract is only 250 words. How come your 20 pages double space or a single space manuscript will be converted in a 250 words in abstract? Can you do that? Of course you can do that. It takes time, it takes skills, but again, do practice. And what's important here is it will help you present complex information. You write that and you read the abstracts more effectively, it helps you to conduct research, helps you to write abstracts for future publication, and help you condense report information. That's why you also have to read. You read the style of how other researchers write it. No? If you have a mentor who really knows how to write well with the manuscript, get that skill from your mentor. Get that technique on how to write the abstract. So Writing abstract, remember that it contains the topic, research question, methods, results, and conclusion in the 250 words. And you underline your key points. And after you finish that, you create your abstract step by step. So you just write phrases, for example, phrases, and then you from there you add more words into it in order to convey the topic and the research questions as well as the methods, results, and conclusion. So these are the step-by-step process. One or two introduction for sentences for the research question, one or two sentences describing your research method, one or two sentences describing the results, and one or two sentences describing the conclusion. It's very easy, right? I know it's easily said than done, but again, it will take time for you to hone the skills, but limited. The more concise, the more or less words that you put in it, the better it will be. So mostly abstracts are made up of 8 statements or 8 sentences. So it should fit in the 250 words or 300 words as indicated by the journal where you publish it. So here, for example, is the detailed experimental procedure, how they are being done. So you have the opening statement, one statement, and then 2 statements for the method approach, and 1 statement for the highlight of significance of the study. So it is very clear. It is creative. Be creative in generating curiosity. Most of the journals right now requires that we need to submit a table of graphics, table of contents for graphics, because graphics also can catch attention. Take note that we do not have time to read all these abstracts, but looking into the visuals of what the paper looks like, that could also help us get our attention. So it might appeal to the readership. So you make your work very, the abstract are very artistic that it could catch the attention of the readership. And be creative is what I'm saying. So next we go to introduction. The introduction is also an important section because this is where you stage. This is the stage that you create in order for the readers to go into what your paper is all about. So introduce itself to the readers, it will attract their attention. So there should be attractiveness, clarity, and also analytical capacity of the presentation that will urge the reader to read the subsequent sections of the article. So take note that the introduction should take the reader's attention in order for them to read what is in next, what's the method, what have you found after you look into this. So this is a very important part of the work. So a bad beginning makes a bad ending. Remember that. Introduction section of a scientific article is important that it can reveal the conclusion of the article. That's why if you read, if you are reading a lot of papers, sometimes or most of the time at the end of the introduction, there is already the revelation of what they have been found in the paper. And so there are papers that have a very good beginning and also good ending. So you read those types of papers. So the introduction answers the question, why are you studying this? Why is it important? Why it is an important question? And why should I give my time reading your paper? And what do we know? What is already known about it? That's why the literature review is important. And what basis do I need to provide such that the reader can understand your study? So these are the important questions. So you need to hook or grab the reader's attention by providing with them with background, the context, the previous research, and key references. take note that it will be an inverted pyramid, giving them a big picture, and then now going to the topic that you would like to answer, or the gap that you would like to solve. So what is it that you are contributing to the problem? So introduction start. Yes.
1 more minute for your
Okay.
talk. Thank you.
Sure. So you start with a section here with a general background of the topic to lay the foundation for addressing an important specific issue. And again, it could either be one or 2 or 3 paragraphs. And the last will be explain briefly how you approach your address in a scientific problem. So these are some of the examples, and then you have the methods. Again, you need to provide enough detail that a competent worker should or could repeat your experiment, as I was saying, and it must be reproducible. Otherwise, your paper will not represent a good science. So you have here a different goals, which, by the way, I'm going to share this to everyone who are present here in the webinar. I'm very sorry that I was not able to give more details on this, but tomorrow I will put more emphasis on this as we go to the individual papers, as I coach you on how to make your paper better. So with the results, this is the core of the paper. Don't start with the results sections with methods. You left out the materials and methods section. The overall description of the experiment and the present present the data you found. That is with the results. Do not discuss anything in the result for that matter, because you have the discussion. And so it should have a meaningful statistics. That's very important, especially with natural sciences, and avoid redundancy of what is shown in the graph or what is shown in the table. So you only have to highlight that. And it should be presented in a logical order, so that once you the logical order using tables and graphs, meaning it should be presented also in a logical order that you presented your methods and your methodology, and that also will follow in your discussion. So the result must be presented and then explained later in the discussion. So I have a lot of information here about the results. So the discussion is the heart of the research manuscript, and I think this is the hardest section to write, and it takes a lot of skills to write this. So these are the important questions that you need to ask. You need to state the interpretation of results, and to make suggestions for your future research, and to explain the implication of your research findings. So functions of this, how to answer how the answers fit to the existing knowledge of topic, and explain how your result supports the answer, and it will answer questions posed to the introduction. This is where you're telling whether your hypothesis is correct or not, and this should be under the discussion. So again, many papers are rejected by journal editors because of faulty discussion, even though the data of the paper might be both valid and interesting. Many, if not, these discussion sections are too verbose, too long, diffuse, and don't focus. So I will end my e-lecture on this section, and thank you very much for your kind introduction, for your kind listening.
All right, okay. Thank you so much for your excellent and insightful presentation, Prof. Doralyn. So please give virtual applause for Professor Doralyn.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we still have the third speaker, Professor Dr. Dato Ibrahim Jantan from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, who will deliver presentation about understanding and writing of article review for journal publication. But before we call Professor Dato Ibrahim Jantan, please allow me to read Professor Ibrahim Jantan's CV. The Professor Ibrahim Jantan graduated from University of Mansoura, Egypt with B.Pharm honoris degree in 1981, obtained his MSc in medicinal chemistry from University of Minnesota, USA in 1985, and his PhD degree in natural products chemistry from the University of Malaya in 1993. He is currently a professor at Institute of Systems Biology, University Kebangsaan Malaysia. Prior to his present position, he was a professor at Taylor's University, Malaysia from 2018 to 2020. He has more than 34 years of research experiences in natural products and medicinal chemistry and pharmacological activities of natural products. He has published 197 papers in ISI indexed journals, 73 papers in proceedings, 2 books, and 5 chapters in books. His Scopus H index is 34. He is a reviewer of manuscripts in ISI index journals such as Phytomedicine, Phytotherapy Research, Phytochemistry, Pharmaceutical Biology, Drug Design Development and Therapy, Frontiers in Pharmacology, BMC Complementary and Alternative Medicines. He was recipient of many awards, including Medicine Sri Nakarin Wirot University, Honorable Award 2010, Thailand, Professor Dr. A. Hisham Endowment Award India Distinguished Research Award, Tokoh Penyelidik 2013, UKM Medical Center, and the Darjah Sedia Bakti Negeri 9, which carries the title Dato. So please welcome our honorable speaker, Professor Dato Ibrahim Jantan. The time is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Dali Ramadan. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Very happy, pleased to meet all of you again. So this is, I remember this might be the fourth time I'm attending or participating in these coaching clinics to share with you our experience of writing research papers. I'm also very happy to meet friends, although it's online, and also to see Prof. Nico, Prof. Darlene, very healthy and very interesting topics being given by them. Unfortunately, Prof. Darlene couldn't finish her talk. It's interesting, and hopefully tomorrow in tomorrow's workshop, she can deliver parts that she not finished today. Okay, I'm given a topic on how to write literature, scientific review paper, which is, I have been talking a lot on how to write scientific paper, research paper, but this is the first time I'm going to talk on review, although I've written a lot of review papers, but to share or to advise friends and students to write a good, excellent review papers is quite challenging, because review paper usually published in fact, most of the citations are from review papers. Those who have high H index, they got high citations from their review papers. Because review papers are actually a summary of work done by the scientists and what are the current issues regarding the topics, and also shows the direction. What is the directions of research in this area? So I like to share my screen first. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, this is the title of my talk today, writing a scientific review article for journal publication. I begin with this Dr. Abdul Kalam, a former or late Abdul Kalam, former President of India. He quotes on value of a paper. Past is a waste paper, present is a newspaper, future is a question paper. So read and write carefully, otherwise life will be a tissue paper. So you can see the importance of paper. You put value in the paper, you increase the value of paper. Right at the bottom is toilet paper, and then with the knowledge or the information you put on it, then the value will increase until become a scientific paper, become a research paper, or a review paper. Review paper is one I'm going to discuss today. Okay, I think the most important things or criteria that you need to have to be a good writer is a good communication skill, especially in writing language, English language, because especially, of course, international journals, the medium of instructions or the language they use is English. So, of course, you have to be knowledgeable, experienced, and also practice. Then you can become a good writer. So, and technical writing should be straightforward, as mentioned by Prof. Doralin just now. You need to use technical English, straightforward, an efficient and clear way of explaining something and how it works. You don't use superfluous phrases and words. And only use familiar, precise words rather than far-fetched, vague words. So, but this is a review paper thing. Some of you might have experience writing a review paper. So this is just in words to explain what's review paper actually. So review paper actually is paper that provides the history of the field. It provides information on the historical context of field, and also overview of current thinking on the topic, and at the same time also offer opinions on the future direction, its future trajectory. So the objective of a review is to provide critical evaluation of the data collected from the literature. So you collect all the literature from data, and then you evaluate them critically. So review articles can help to identify potential research areas to explore, and sometimes they will draw new conclusions from the existing data. So it summarizes the current state of knowledge of the topic, creates understanding of the topic for a reader by discussing the findings presented in recent research papers. And it also synthesizes the result from several primary literature papers to produce a coherent argument about a topic or focused description of a field. Okay, so of course we can describe in different ways, but as I said, you need the experience. You need to do it, practice, then you really can feel what is the review paper or review article all about. Why do you write the review paper? What is the justification for you to write a topic? It cannot be based on saying that there is not sufficient data or no literature review has been carried out in this particular area, or the existing review are already outdated or quite dated, and nothing up-to-date information is there. So justification to review a topic in the literature review should be based on research questions of the problems to be addressed. Just like writing a research paper. What are the problems in the area or in the topic? And you have to find what are research questions to be addressed. This is very important question to be asked, and most I think, especially the young scientists, may quite hesitant to write a review paper because of knowing that a review paper traditionally invited by the journals. They invited experienced experts, people to write a particular topic. This has been done in recent years. So, but now there are also unsolicited review. What I mean is, a review, you are not being invited to submit a review. So anybody can send a review paper to a journal, but there's a procedure for that. So what is actually invited review? Review papers that's been published by experts in the field. So the journals will invite the experts in the field to write a review paper on a topic. So basically, the invited review papers serve as an excellent reference to anyone who wants to learn from the masters. The uninvited or unsolicited review papers, these are papers that's not being submitted by any scientist without being invited. So many journals are now accepting unsolicited review. So what you need to do is just communicate with the section editor or the editor-in-chief and write to them politely, maybe through email, inquire whether you can submit an interesting article and also a specific topic. And also usually you accompany or attach the draft abstracts for them to look at it. Another thing that is very important, I've seen some review papers, they only have one author, which is fine if the author is an expert, well-known scientist in the area. But if you are new in the area, you have not much work done or published in that area, authors should be made up of few people, group of writers. For review papers usually involve multidisciplinary fields, which means that it needs a lot of people in different areas. Involve a team of complementary co-authors. For example, in academia, usually the student, postgraduate student, master PhD student can start writing the draft, and then the advisor, as the leading or corresponding author, will review, edit, and so on. So students can do the corrections and prepare draft after draft, and finally the corresponding author, leading author, which is usually the supervisor, will finalize the draft and then submit it to the journal. So this is a common practice in academia. So there are many types of review articles or review papers, but the most common one are the narrative review, systematic review, meta-analysis, and meta-synthesis. Sometimes it's a bit confusing for new people who are quite new in writing review article. I'm not sure whether they are writing a narrative review or a systematic review, for example. So let me put it in words here, just briefly to describe what is narrative review and systematic review. Okay. Narrative review is a qualitative work. Yeah? They explain the existing knowledge on the topic available in the literature, published in the literature, all published research in this area available in the literature. Okay. It highlights new research streams, identify gaps, research gaps, or recognize inconsistencies, and also it helps in refining, focusing, and shaping research questions, and in developing theoretical and conceptual frameworks. For example of narrative review, one paper by Promo, published 2010, Validity of Claims Made in Weight Management Research, a narrative review of diabetic articles. So this is really narrative review, because narrative review has been coined in the title. Systematic review is actually a quantitative work. It's a review of a clearly defined research question, and they use a systematic, strict, and reproducible methods and selection criteria to identify, select, and critically appraise all relevant research that are included in the review. For example, consumption of animal foods and endometrial cancer risk, a systemic literature review, and meta-analysis. So this is actually a longer, in terms of words, longer pages compared to narrative review, and it is more critical. We need, rather than a narrative review, it's more of like a narrative approach. You're writing everything there in available literature. A systemic review is more of selecting certain topic based on methods and selection criteria. You have inclusion, exclusion criteria, and so on. You have methods, research methods that you use, and so on. And these are longer in terms of length, and also needs more input and very critical type of work. And you have meta-analysis. This is quantitative work. It compares and combines the findings published in quantitative research studies and assess using standardized statistical procedures. So it reveals patterns, relationships, and to integrate findings from many studies on the same subject. So example, relationship between job satisfaction and health, meta-analysis. So you're comparing the studies from different studies, combine findings on similar topics. The fourth research types of research review is meta-analysis, quite similar to meta-synthesis, quite similar meta-analysis, but in this case, this is qualitative work based on based on non-statistical techniques. So integrates, evaluate, analyze, and interpret findings of multiple qualitative research studies. Example, women's experiences following severe perineal trauma, a meta-ethnographic synthesis. So now let us look at the general form of literature. It's not much different from a research paper, actually, but they are a bit, should say, a freestyle, not rigid in terms of the formatting, in terms of the form, compared to a research article. Of course, very important, refer to guidelines for authors before you start writing a review paper. So, as mentioned, it can come in different forms. There are no established format like for the empirical papers or research papers. You could follow the way that papers published in your target journal to ensure success or in the publication or success in the acceptance by the journal. So many journals require the following sections submitted in order listed. So you have title page, abstract, introduction, discussion. Sometimes you have methodology too, especially you're doing systematic review. And discussions is the body of the paper, is the most important part. This is where you discuss critically the literature's papers published before, same topic, and how it relates to your thesis of the paper or the objective of your paper. Then followed by conclusion and references. And also very important question is, what should be the minimum number of words of a review paper for publication in high impact factor journal, okay, indexing in ISI. So you need to refer to guidelines for authors. So there's not really a fixed number of words, depends on journal. Usually high impact factor journal, the words number are quite high. For example, in Frontiers Journal, you can go maximum to 10,000 words, and you can go more than that sometimes. It depends. If your articles are interesting, they can allow you to exceed the 10,000 until 12,000 word limits. Most journals should say have a max for review, have a maximum length of 6,000 words. some a bit lower until 4,000, but high impact factor journal, usually they go for higher words because if you are reviewing a very important topic, you need the literature. There's a lot of work being done in the area. You just cannot write a short article as like writing a review, a research article. So 6,000, I should say, to be safe, plus minus. A systematic review, of course, is longer, can go up to 10,000 words. So some, for example, pathochemical review can go to until 15,000, 16,000 words. So, and also same with Frontiers Journal, I've seen papers can go more than 15,000, 16,000 words. So the reference list is also varies and depends on journal. So the most important thing, the reference list should contain articles, or references comprehensively, covering all the major published work in the area or in the topic. You can go more than 100 references. A good journal, high impact factor journal can go to 100 plus. Can go more up to 50, but it cannot be less than that, because if you are trying to submit your review paper to high impact factor journal, it should be more, I should say, based on my experience, is 60 or close to 100 references. So, okay, let us look at, as I said, it's not much different from writing research paper in terms of topic, abstracts, and so on. The major difference is the body of the article, that is the discussion. I will elaborate on that later. So define a topic, consider a topic that is likely to lead to an excellent literature review. A topic that will attract interest of readers, because it's the same like a review, it's a research article. The topic refer to very specifically on work, as a type of work. But an literature review is a collection of work done in the area. So the topic chosen should be interesting, preferably related to, of course, your area of study, that call for an analytical and critical review. For postgraduate students, master PhD students, this is a good start for you. You should begin by writing a review article in the area you are going to work on with the study, and you will look at the data and analyze and critically review. It's not only collecting data, but getting the information, analyze the data, and critically review in relation to your research topic. So a topic, an important aspect of the field that have enough material to write. So you make sure that many papers or many research activities, research studies has been carried out in the area, so that you have enough material to write a review. Okay, so it has a great deal of research already being conducted in this research area. So you should ask this question. So make sure you have enough material in that article to write a review. So a well-defined issue based on published papers involve lists of key research questions to be answered. So you have to identify what are the research questions to be answered. What are the research problems based on the papers being published? And what are things that you can raise, questions that can be raised based on when all work have been done before in this area. And also it's very important for you to know where is writing a review in the topic, is it in the right time? Is it still a hot topic? For example, in the present moment, people are talking about COVID-19. So you've seen a lot, maybe few hundred of papers on COVID-19 being published in many areas right now, because people want to know more about COVID-19, about the disease SARS-CoV-2. So it's a lot of review papers now and different aspects of COVID-19 and the virus responsible for it. So ideas for potential review may come from the serendipitous moment while you are discussing with your colleagues while you are reading materials related to your work, so may come up with ideas of the topic. So, and also very important, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. Okay, make sure that they review something that has not been written, published before. So the question is, have there been previous review on similar topic? But if there been previous review on, if there is some papers, you shouldn't be discouraged. If literature review on similar related topic have already been published, you should still go ahead. There's still opportunity. You can still proceed with your own literature review by considering the following strategies. One is discussing your review, the approaches, limitations, and conclusions of past review. So you look at the approaches, limitations, conclusion of past review, and then you discuss your review based on this. And try to find a new angle that has not been covered previously by previous reviews. And also you may incorporate new material that has accumulated or eventually accumulated, has been published recently, since the previous reviews has been published. So up-to-date material has not been published before in this and the topic. So the title of a review paper, of course, you have to select an informative title. You have to look for a topic that can be easily covered within the assigned limits of your paper. Use simple, straightforward English, technical English, clear, succinct, and accurate title, indicating the area and scope of review to be covered. For title, the title has to be brief, short, so you have to use very straightforward English wording. Title should be concise and indicate the type of review. What type of review, whether it's narrative, whether it's systematic, analysis, and so on. Titles are often used in information retrieval system, so avoid abbreviations. Of course, you cannot put abbreviations for non-expert, they won't know. So in your title, no abbreviation formulas to be used. You need to write the title in full. So examples of title of review papers, these are review papers. Actually from our own work, plant-derived immunomodulators, insight on their preclinical evaluation and clinical trial. This is systematic review. And also recently we published dietary polyphenols, suppress chronic inflammation by modulation of multiple inflammation-related cell signaling pathway. These are review papers. Yeah. And a title page, this is just like in other article, just like a research article, you have the title, you have the author's name, the affiliation, yeah, the unit, and the author for correspondence. But the most important thing is here, the title has to be informative, immunomodulatory effects and mechanism of curcuma species and their bioactive compounds, a review. Here there's a title, informative, and look for a topic that can easily cover within the assigned limits of your paper. So the title should make sure cover everything in the paper, representing what you have written in the paper. Include names, address of all authors, indicate who is okay. Okay, this just show you example of paper published, a review article published. This Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry, very good journal. The title of the review article, this is ETCC, systematic review, looking at the role or what dietary polyphenols can do by suppressing chronic inflammation through modulation or through inhibition or stimulation of the signaling pathway responsible for multiple inflammation-related response. So name of and you can see the authors is a multi authors, many co-authors. If it's good to have experienced people or expert in the area to be in the group, because if the author is well known in the area, has published a lot of papers in this area, and he's well known in the area and also been published a lot in this journal, so it's much easier, a better chance for them to get it published, a review article published in the journal. So this is, you can see the authors are from different institutions, from different countries who are coming up with this. This is just a strategy, also important for you to consider writing a review article. It's good to have an expert in the area, a well-known person in the area. You are going to write in very high backpacker journal, like example, Nature of related article journals. So you need to have very well-known, experienced people who have been publishing very high impact factors in the area to get your work being considered for possible publication in such journal. So abstracts are same like in a research article. The number of words limit can be as low as 150, sometimes go to 100, can go up to 300 words. Of course, you have to refer to the guidelines, and it can be a single paragraph, a concise single paragraph, or a structured extract. Berlin, I've shown you just now what is a structured extract. So, and also a single paragraph abstract. So a reader, one can abstract can do is it gives information, a quick information to a reader, because reader want to know what about the paper or about the review very fast. So a reader can quickly learn the rationale behind the review, justification for you to write this review, what are the approach you use, discussion, the major things that you are discussing or critically analyzing, the important conclusion, and what is the future direction. So in writing an abstract, as mentioned earlier by previous speakers, abstract was always being written last. You write the summary after the rest of the paper is completed. So then you can write abstract based on summary of what have you written in the paper, rather than start the abstract and then realize a lot of things missing later. So it should be written last when the paper has been completed. And also, since abstract has word limits, economy of words is important, especially in abstract. However, use complete sentences, do not sacrifice readability for brevity. So you want to reduce the word counts, make sure the sentence complete, grammatically correct. Yeah, do not sacrifice readability for brevity. So you make people difficult people to understand what you intend to convey. You're trying to make it short, so it's better to make sure that proper English being used. And also abstract, of course, stand on its own. You cannot refer any part of the paper, such as figure or table in abstract. And also no references. Yeah, focus on discussion, because this is the main body of the paper. Of course, some review article they write in different way, but make it interesting. Writing an abstract review paper is different from writing an abstract for a research article. When readers want to read your abstract, it makes it interesting, inviting them to read, want to know more about the paper. So that's I think main purpose of abstract in review article. Okay, the point and abstract must be consistent with what was reported and what is reported in the paper. So it has to be consistent. Yep. And also, of course, important as mentioned in my earlier slides, English. Yeah? So if you have all the information, writing an abstract, especially writing a review article, especially, you have to have good command of English. Yeah? So English, correct spelling, clarity of sentences and phrases, proper reporting of quantities, also very important. So this just show you an abstract. It's a single, concise, one paragraph abstract of our work previously published. This is about, I'd say it's about 200 words. Yeah. So just briefly, you can see you begin with writing about the problems facing of the use of immunomodulators, synthetic immunomodulators. So, and why plant-derived immunomodulators can be an alternative for cytotoxic drugs that's being used as immunosuppressors in clinical use. And then you mentioned the potential of using plant-derived immunomodulators and describe the underlying mechanism, how it works. Example, modulate the complex mixture system in the prevention of infection rather than treating immune-related disease. And then mention about a lot of these plants being used, but there's to traditionally also to treat wide array of immunomodulatory effects and also influence the immune system in the body. And then you mentioned about the objective of this, or the theme of this review. So the present review will give an overview of widely investigated plant-derived compounds, the natural immunomodulators, and these are the plant compounds or phytochemicals being chosen for very deep, in-depth review, especially on the mechanism of actions, how it affects the pathway. So that's how and this is one of our papers, a very high citation. As I said, review article usually get better citation or higher citations than research article. And another important parts is the keywords. Okay, it can depends on journal also, can go to 4 to 6 words. Because it's very important, because they use keywords for cross-referencing. And the choice of words is very important. Preferably not the one that's used in the title and not in the abstract. They facilitate computer search. So, and this is important because you want your article to be more visible. People can access your paper easily, get the paper downloaded. So, okay, the first part, the paper's introduction. Purpose of introduction is to acquaint the reader the rationale behind the work with the intention of defending it. So I think it's quite similar to research papers of intention presented by Prof. Dorolin just now. The most important thing as a review article, the paragraph, between one paragraph and another paragraph, there should be a flow. Paragraphs that flow make sentences flow into each other, like a river flow. Cannot be like from one paragraph to another paragraph, that should be very jumpy. Not much connection. So organize ideas, making one major point with each paragraph or contain series of related ideas. So in one sentence, you may have 1 or 2 related ideas. They should be short, but full stops should not be added low, so readily that the writing does not flow. You have to refer to papers published in your target journals. What are the style and what number of words in one paragraph or something. So from there you can, then of course, the ideas in each paragraph sentence have to be related. You cannot just mix like 4 or 5 ideas in one paragraph. You don't really discuss the topic in depth because it's very brief. Make it very brief. So pay attention to spelling, clarity, and appropriateness of sentences. And again, English. So be good in your English writing. And use past tense to cite references. So when you cite work done by previous scientists, always in past tense, except when referring to established facts. So introduction section, there are three things that you need to be accomplished when you write introduction section. First, introduce the topic, followed by state the topic's relevant, and finally provide the thesis statement. So introduce the topic. This is the time where you provide the background, the justification, the research problems, and so on. They provide the industry background information specific to the topic. Define terms that be unfamiliar to readers. Don't use abbreviation when it's first mentioned in a paper. Put it in, you have to write in full, name in full, explain the scope of discussion, purpose of writing the review, define your topic and provide an appropriate context for reviewing the literature, state the scope of the review, what is included, what isn't included. So this is the introduction of the topic. They followed by the topics relevant, explain the relevance, importance of the topic to the larger issue, discussed in the academic community. So what is the significance of the paper in a larger context? Establish your reasons. What are research problems and key research questions to be answered? And then finally, the thesis statement. This is actually, thesis statement actually illustrate your objective in writing the review. Usually a single sentence at the end of the introduction section. A clear statement of what you intend to prove or illustrate by the review. This is actually a roadmap for the paper. This is the main idea that you want to get across to the reader. So by revealing the thesis in the introduction, the reader knows what to expect in the rest of the paper. So literature review needs to have scholarly resources or evidence-based literature should be used on the topic, on the specific topic. Finding information about what is already known about the topic in the literature. You have to find the scientific published papers or evidence-based literature. So place the project within the larger whole of what is currently being explored while demonstrating that the work is original and innovative. So review and synthesize of prior studies related to the review topic, search exhaustively for information relevant. So you have to search exhaustively, especially the up-to-date papers, recent papers, the primary papers in the area. So involve collection, critical evaluation, analysis of publication that relates to the topic, provide a clear picture of the state of knowledge on the subject. And then you provide an overview of current knowledge, annotation of relevant theories, methods, and gaps in the existing literature or existing research. So a few tips on literature search. Keep track of the papers or research items that you have used. Save them in a file so that papers can be easily retrieved when needed. You need to do this, otherwise it will be mixed up because you may read about 100 papers. So maybe if you don't keep track of these papers, then you may have difficulty in retrieving information later. Yeah. So keep a list of papers whose PDF cannot be accessed immediately. Sometimes it's a paid journal, you don't have access to it. So just keep a list, just a title of papers, so as to retrieve them later with alternative strategies. So define early in the process some criteria for exclusion, some criteria for inclusion of relevant papers. So you know what papers, based on your systemic review, within inclusive criteria, exclusive criteria. So do not just look for research papers in the area you wish to review, but also seek previous review. Okay, more on tips on literature review. Take notes while reading. Start writing down interesting pieces of information, insights about how to reorganize or organize the review, thoughts on what to write. This is to avoid misattribution. And also you can use EndNote software to help you to avoid misattribution. So when searching the literature for pertinent papers review, the general rules or the usual rules apply is be thorough, okay, or be exhaustive in looking for papers related to the topic. Use different keywords and database sources online, especially Google Scholar, Medline, Scopus, Web of Science, Springer, and so on. And look at who has cited past relevant papers and book chapters. Now on the discussion, as mentioned, discussion is the body of the paper. It's a very important component of a review article. Contains information that develops and supports the thesis. There's no particular form to follow. Okay? It may have subheadings to organize the topic. There are several considerations that must be followed. There are things that you need to look to consider while writing a discussion. The most important thing, do not summarize. It's not a summary of literature. You need to analyze the data published by the studies. So analysis of ideas presented in literature is required. Describe important results from recent primary literature articles. Explain how these results shape our current understanding of the topic, how it relates to your topic. Yeah? Synthesize the material from all the works published. What are the connections you see with your work and connections you are trying to illustrate among your readings. So provide insight into the relation between your chosen topic and the wider subject area. Move from a general, wider view of literature being reviewed to a specific focus of your review topic. What I mean here, you start from wider scope, move from a general aspect of the topic, yeah, globally, for example, and then move and then go to nationally, and finally be more specific, focus on the review topic. So,
excuse me, Professor.
Yes.
Your time is 2 more minutes. Thank you.
Okay. So, okay. Analyze, synthesize, interpret, review papers, not a pure summary of information you read or review. You require to analyze, interpret information in a very meaningful way. It's not enough to simply present the data. You have to be very detailed, go inside or what has been mentioned or discussed in the papers published. Establish a clear thesis, the onset of your writing. And stay focused. Keep the review focused, but make it of broad interest. Keep your discussion focused on the topic, and more importantly, your thesis. Okay, a well-focused paper is focused in getting your message across to your reader. Organize your points. Keeping your points organized makes it easier for reader to follow along and make sense to your review. So they use subheadings. Start each paragraph with a topic sentence relate back to your thesis. You can use subheadings to help and to guide the readers. And as far as discussion concerned, meaningful subheadings can really help to relate your content to organize your point. And also relate discussions of your thesis. Your thesis should illustrate your objective in writing the review, and your discussion should serve to accomplish your objective. Make sure you keep your discussion related thesis in order to meet your objective. And then be critical, include your own relevant research, but be objective. Yeah, you need to include, don't be biased. Yeah? And also don't be over enthusiastic, means giving too much importance to your own writing to be included in your review paper, or in contrast, you do not want to be biased by downplaying your contribution to the field. So just include relevant material and be ethical about it. So be up to date. You need awareness, not just the overall direction, achievement in the field of inquiry, but also of the latest work published, yeah, so as not to become out of date before they have been published. The 5 C's of writing a discussion: you need to cite, you need to compare, to contrast, to critique, to connect. So this is the strategy of a good discussion. You need to cite, primary focus, stay review to your related to review topic, compare papers been published in all aspects, whether you agree or disagree, criticize critically, contrast the argument, themes, methodologies, approach, and so on. Critique the literature, connect the literature to your own review topic. How does your review work draw upon the partner form? Synthesize or add a new perspective to what has been said in the literature. So, and also you may include a number of figures and tables, use them to present your own synthesis of original data. But if you get materials already published elsewhere by some people, you need to ask permission. Yeah? You need to have permission granted before you submit your papers to the journal. It's just to show you a figure, yeah, that you can use as alternative to text writing, and also you can briefly describe with a figure in the text. In conclusion, you need to illustrate the key connections between your major points and your thesis, as well as the key connections between your thesis and the broader discussion. What is the significance of paper in larger context? Where have you arrived as a result of writing this paper? And also summarize the paper points in the review. Point out the significance of this result. Discuss questions that remain in the area, but keep it brief. Summarize the important aspects of existing body of literature. Evaluate current state of literature, reviewed. Identify what are the significant flaws or gaps in existing knowledge. Link your research to existing knowledge. Be careful not to present any new information in the conclusion section. And also, you can include also future direction. What are the opportunities for future research in this area? References, things same like writing original article, but of course, number of references is much more compared to original research article, because you are reviewing literature exhaustively. Yeah? So if we use evidence-based literature, websites have to be careful. Cannot be used as inappropriately be used as a primary source. Be cautious, because anyone can put anything in a website. You have to make sure it is evidence-based, yeah? Whether it's fiction, whether it's false, or there's a. So list all literature cited in a paper in alphabetical order by first author or numerically. If you are citing or review on a line journal, use the journal citation. Check for similarity, as mentioned by previous speakers, very important. For review article, high impact, they don't want the similarity index to be greater than 35%. So have to make sure to rephrase the sentences, to rewrite, and so on. Make sure it's 25%. Of course, it can be higher, some journal can be higher, because it's not easy to write a review article, because you are writing works done by others. So there's tendency for you to use the same sentences, same words. So, of course, journal, they don't want the similarity index to be greater than 5%. And then where to publish your paper? Aim for high publication, ISI, flagship journal, Q1. So if you fail to get it published in Q1, then go for Q2 and below. So, however, do not waste time if the quality of your paper work have not reached the appropriate level for high impact publication. This can be advised by your colleagues or your supervisor or people in the area, experts. They can advise you, don't waste your time to send to high impact Q1, Q2 papers and go for lower impact, or go for Scopus. So Scopus Index journal, if only papers are rejected, are not accepted by ISI journal. And also avoid, very important, I've seen young scientists especially wasting their effort, avoid they are publishing in non-index journal. Then you have shelf journal, select a journal via content, select a journal via its impact factor. This has been discussed for DECO and just now. It's very important to select good journal, because good journal reflects the quality of your work, quality of the abstract, of the literature review. And selection of journal, check journal website, author information, journal publication lead times, and also where there's open access. They need to pay or not. So there's publication fees for that. And also beware of standalone journal. Don't send papers to this journal, such a waste of work, waste of your effort. Because a lot of journals, there's a lot of journals, standalone journals, or say fake journals online. You can publish, you can get your papers published without being reviewed and so on. So there are a lot of information website that you can Google and look at information, and then you can read what are the review, assessment, descriptions of the journal before you submit the article. And there's a list of predatory journals published by Bells. So this is one that you can look, you can see what are the journals and also publishers that predatory. So you shouldn't send your paper to these journals or to these publishers. And also good authorship practice gap, and this has been discussed by Prof. Nico, discuss authorship criteria with authors, and reach an agreement early stage, who should be the first author, second author, and so on. Authors feel their contribution being recognized and rewarded. Yeah? So it's really crucial to develop a lasting working relationship. So you need to have a long-lasting relationship, so their efforts should be recognized and rewarded by putting their name as co-authors and so on, acknowledge them. Order of name has to be based on level of contribution, possibly a seniority reputation for this. For review article, it's good to have the most senior to be the corresponding author. His name can appear in front or at the end, but generally these most senior people are the names are at the end, and the first author is really the students or the young scientists. So writing review paper, especially of multidisciplinary nature, requires contribution from multiple authors. I mentioned earlier, this may be achieved by signing reviews of different subtopics to different co-authors. So it's a teamwork. Yeah, you cannot write a review article, good research article alone, Lone Ranger. It's not easy, yeah, because especially if the review is a multidisciplinary nature. So it's good to have people from different areas of the topics and to contribute. Okay, ethics publication we mentioned just now. I think it just asked this. Thank you very much for your attention. Back to you, Dr. Dolly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the invaluable knowledge from your presentation. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, currently we are expecting questions from the participants. We will start our panel discussion for all speakers. If you have any questions, please raise your hand using raise hand feature on Zoom, or you may type the questions in the chat box. And if you want to ask in Bahasa, it is also welcomed. Yeah, maybe is there any questions from participants? Okay, someone is raising her hand. So yeah, the first question. So please, Ditaronistin, you may ask to the speaker. Could you please unmute yourself?
Okay. I cannot unmute before. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for all the speakers for very great explanations about how to publish a great paper. I have a question. I know that Professor Ibrahim have already explained it, but I didn't find it clear. How do you know whether we are targeting in a predatory journal or not? And what is for sure the definition of predatory journal? Yeah. What makes a journal is categorized as a predatory, because this is very important. Sometimes we think that the journal is have a high rank and something like that, but finally, yeah, it makes me curious how to define the predatory, whether the journal we're targeting is predatory or not. Maybe either the speakers have their own perspective on this. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. But could you please mention your affiliation, Ms. Adita?
Okay, sorry. I'm Edita Renestin from the Faculty of Military Pharmacy, Indonesia Defense University.
Okay, thanks very much
Thanks,
indeed.
Dale.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, I hope that every speaker will have different answer on this, but maybe Prof. Dato first, because you,
the
yeah.
best person to respond from Nico, because he mentioned about this just now. But I will respond my own experience. So how I do it. Okay. As I said, you want to publish your work. You can choose a journal based on the topic, related to your work. Yeah. Example, there's a special edition for a specific topic that's related to what you want to write. So that's one way. Another one is based on the impact factor. So your impact factor, this you can Google by using Journal Citation Report, JCR is online. And sometimes some countries, I think you need to pay for that. So what I do if you want to publish, it's good for you to target the journal first before you write article. Don't write article, then only you look for journal. And the journal, if you have been writing papers for so many years, so you know what a journal, very related to what you want to do. So what I do is I make sure I'm very familiar with all these journals because I spend a lot of time on looking at all these websites, all this, for example, JCR, paper under WOS or ISI, WF, Word of Science, and the ISI journal. So in this list under JCR, they will list all the journals that is under ISI. So it's very easy. If you go to the website, you can type, for example, you have a journal of interest, you type the name, it doesn't appear, so it's not listed under ISI. So it's listed, then they can also give you more information detail, the impact factor, the history, and the projection, and so on. So how do you know it's a predatory journal? Predatory journals, you can go to there's a Bell's list, you call it Bell's. I mentioned in my slide just now, but I didn't have time to elaborate. Bell's list. It's available, but it was put offline because of a lot of noise. People, many publishers very unhappy, want to sue him. But I think now already back online. So you can look at the list, and if the journal you want to submit is there, so it's suspected to be a predatory journal, and also from predatory publishers. So and also it's also good for the institution to help. In fact, at the faculty level can do that. Where you have, for example, the deputy dean in research, for example, any papers you want to publish, they can advise you about the status of the journal. Somewhat stated whether it's ISI, whether it's Scopus, and also you need to differentiate between ISI and Scopus. How do you do that? For ISI, you need to use a JCR, Journal Citation Report. This is for ISI journal. If you coin or type the name of journal under this website, JCR, it doesn't appear, possibly it's Scopus index. So go and look for more information about journal. In fact, you can Google, using Google, then it gives more information about the journal, its Scopus index, and they have different ranking. They are not using impact factor, they have different way of ranking the journal, Scopus journal, according to different category. So that is what I've been doing, and so far, Alhamdulillah, I've not been trapped sending papers, especially for my students. I'll be very unhappy if they will submit. That's the reason why we work as a team. Students should refer to the supervisor rather than do it on their own to submit their papers. Discuss, advice from the supervisor with all the experience, knowledge, and then submit it through him. Or the students can also submit. It's a learning process, and also make sure at the end of the day, the paper published to all these index journals rather than non-index or predatory journals. Thank you.
Okay, maybe I can add, it's a lot of good advices already, but my experiences from our own journal, do you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Can you hear? Yes, okay. Is that if a journal is abstracted in PubMed or in another search machine which is accepted, then the journal has to be, let's say, and has to have a certain quality. I know that in our journal, it took us 4 years in the beginning, or almost 5 years in the beginning, to get abstracted in PubMed. And that means that the publisher has to submit an extensive document on the journal, which is being tested. And another thing is that the journal should also be consistently publishing manuscripts. So you have to take a number of years as a journal to show that you have sufficient manuscripts accepted and published per year. So I think that if a journal is abstracted, for example, in PubMed or other search machines, and it has an impact factor, then it is a journal which is not a predatory journal.
Thanks very much for the additional information, Prof. Nico. So maybe Prof. Darlene will have different perspective on it.
Yes, so thank you. I will add into that. Ways to spot a predatory journal. I usually check the journal's contact information. I usually check that if it is coming from where. Second, I would check the editorial board. If the editorial board are experts in their field or not. So you have to look into that. So you really need to do your homework. Third, I would check their peer review process. Like for example, for high impact journal, it takes about 3 months or 4 months for that matter. Look into their peer review process. Is it short? Is it long? And the percentage of their acceptance. If it is like 80% acceptance or 100% acceptance, that could be really predatory. And lastly, I would go back to the previous articles that they have published and then look at the papers that they have published. Where is it coming from? Are these written by experts themselves or just predatory? They usually attract young researchers just to start on with their credentials. But again, you will be tracked. That's why you have to put into that. You need to spot those. So journals contact information, read the editorial journal board members, review the peer review process and the publication timelines and percentage of acceptance, and read the previous issues of the journal.
Okay. Many thanks indeed for the answers. I hope the answers can fulfill your question. Okay, thank you so much. And then we have another question from Ms. Kartika Chitra. Would you please ask the speakers in person? Could you please turn on your video, Ms. Kartika? If it's possible. I don't think so. So maybe I should read the question for the speakers. Dear Professor Ibrahim, I've heard before that in order to make our review articles have high opportunity to be accepted, we should aim for journal that have focus specified in review rather than ordinary journal, because research article will be more outweighed than review article in ordinary journal. Is it true, Prof?
I don't think so, because there are some journals very specific for review. For example, pathochemistry review article. Articles submitted are all review papers, and the chances for you to get it published is also as tough as writing a journal, complete journal, having all this research, ordinary research article, review, short communication, and so on. So I don't think that's a different. Of course, the hindering thing is, or hindering block is sometimes too many papers being submitted. So they have backlog and so on. So they may be sometimes a bit choosy, and it's not that your review paper is not of high quality, so they have to reject it so that you can resubmit it to other journals. So That may be the reason. But I don't see there is I think difference in opportunity for paper review articles to get it published in a specific review article journal, review journal, or a general journal, accepting all types of paper. I think the other speakers can respond to that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And in addition to that, maybe journals, also science journals, for regular research papers, they usually like a lot review papers. They, in these days, have separate review editors in order to request people to submit reviews. And the reason is that review papers cite much more usually than research papers. So it is good for their impact factor to receive and to publish review papers. So that is another reason, let's say, that most journals, in addition to the review journals, will accept review articles. But on the other hand, you have to realize that the review journals probably have a broader audience than the dedicated, let's say, chemistry or biology or other journals. So that may be a reason for high quality reviews to take a review journal. But if your review is more dedicated to the subject, it is really good to consider a research journal.
Thank you. So maybe another answer from Prof. Dorali.
So I think Prof. Ibrahim and Prof. Nico have already answered the question.
All right, okay. Thank you so much for the answers, professors. So we have next questions from Miss Ainina Al-Shadrina. Would you like to ask the speakers in person by turn on your video and microphone, please?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello, professors. My name is Ainina Al-Sadrina. I am from School of Pharmacy, Bandung Institute of Technology, but I was also a student in Faculty of Pharmacy of Indonesia. I was an alumni there. So my question is regarding the article review, because I am currently interested in making that article review. But I personally like to print the literatures, so I like to read it in physical forms. So in my room, there are many papers that I find it difficult to organize. Could you please give some tips on how to organize those many literatures to make a good article review? Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the question. Yeah, it's very interesting question because it happened to me when I did my PhD program. Yeah, it's difficult to manage the printed papers, to be honest. Yeah, hopefully the speakers here, yeah, it can give some helps to us. Yeah.
Okay, since you're asking me, I'll start. I respond first.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I think I mentioned in my slide just now the tips for literature review. Yeah. Because you are collecting a lot of material, sometimes more than 100, maybe 200 related. So you need to sort out. Some are very related topics, some are very not much related. So if you collect all the 200 plus, it's too much or too many. I remember when I was young, doing research, where we don't have all this facility, online, internet, and so on. I have files. I collected all the papers, went to the library, and then put in different files, put headings, topics. I mean, for example, is on biology, chemistry, on physiology, things like that. That's what we did last time. But now, because of the facility online and so on, and to facilitate things, what we can do is you have to take notes of all literature related to topics or remotely related topics. Don't ignore them. Take notes, the title, and if possible, the abstracts. Yeah, and then collect as much of PDF of topics very much related to your work. The major references, the PDF. You don't have the PDF copy at this moment, fine. But take note about the title and so on, but you can get it later by other means. So now you have information you have in the file that you have the title. Let's say you have 200 papers, just title. And then it can be done also. You can click the title, you can go to the abstract. You can what you have in your file, your data is the title and the abstract. And you can easily get the full article if you use Google Scholar, for example. Some of them is accessible, right? Some, of course, not. So, and those, maybe your university have, the library can help you on that. So you don't have to collect all the papers. It's a lot, especially you have systematic review. You have many of them. So just get the title, get the abstract, put in a file. Filing should be good. And then you screen, and then read. What I mean, you screen based on the abstract. You cannot read all. It's good if you can read all. Based on the abstract, and then you screen, and then those that is inclusive in your very related to your topics, then you read them in detail. So this will help you in arranging the introduction. You can make it into a flow because you have all the articles, the major references, and in certain areas and specific area, because your review may be multidisciplinary. So you can also maybe arrange in the file and separate them into subheadings. This on chemistry, this is on biology, this is in pharmacology, and something like that. And I think this will help very much.
Maybe I can add to that. I understand that you probably like to have access to manuscripts or to papers also, which are not in your library or which cannot be found via the internet. I think in that case, it is quite easy to approach the corresponding author or the first author and ask for a reprint. I am myself, let's say, on ResearchGate, for example, and there it is for interested people very easy to ask for a reprint. And I always respond within 24 hours with sending a PDF of the research. So accessibility, I can imagine, is an important. That's both online and on paper. And for the rest, I think science should become green, which means that you should print as little as possible. In my view, that's what I try to do. I'm not successful fully in that, but I remember that when I moved from one building in 2015 at VU University to another, I had 5 or 6 cupboards, all with paper copy papers. And in the new building, we only were allowed, let's say, one small cupboard for all our paperwork. So we had to throw away all the paper manuscripts and papers. So I think you should, if my advice, you should, but everything which you can do and organize on paper, you can also do and organize digitally with subheadings and subtitles and searching and all those things. In fact, including, let's say, storing the PDF files. And in addition to that, you can make marks and notes on the PDF file, on the heading. So just immediately you see what is important in the manuscript. But But I think we have to go into a situation in which printing is, let's say, done as little as possible. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you so much. Any addition, Prof. Durrani? I think
I
you.
agree with Prof. Dato and Prof. Nico on that. Organizing your topic or the paper that you need to do take a lot of time, and that's what Professor Nico, you can do it digitally, right? Because we make it more greener. So with there are a lot of, I would like you to look for apps that can organize your files. There are many free apps that can organize your apps depending on topics. So I am using it, our lab are using it for some aspects, like for our inventory or things like that. But these are free, and this could help your search for whatever topic or whatever journal you have or topic you have much easier. So yeah, and then you can write your PDF. You can write a lot of annotation. You can highlight those, and there is also apps that can help you on that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your answers, Prof.
Okay, let's move to the next question. The question is from Dr. Widya T. What would you like to ask in person, Dr. Widya T?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. Yeah, we'll be so happy if you can ask the speakers in person.
Thank you. My first question is for Professor Nico, and it's very straightforward. What is the normal waiting time to be accepted? And when should I withdraw my manuscripts? I've been sending 2 manuscripts to different journals, and I've been waiting now for approximately 6 months. And I've been doing some communication with the editor and also with the reviewer, but still they didn't have decided my manuscript. And my second question is to Professor Dorolin. Is it appropriate to use negative sentences as a title just to attract reader attentions? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. As to the first question, the time, it varies amongst journals. And the poorer the journals, the longer it takes, usually. And we had, let's say, in the course of the years, in our journal, a continuous battle to shorten the time of reviewing and the time of publishing. That is 2 different things. And the time of reviewing, I think that many journals will have, let's say, a reviewing time within 6 weeks. I mean, the rapid ones, the top journals, within 3 weeks. If it is not within 6 weeks, then you really have to intensively correspond with the editor and ask why the decision is not there. And if he has not a good argument, I mean, not the good argument is, I cannot find reviewers, because a good journal has a large battery of reviewers who are willing to review a number of papers per year. Not too many, because then they don't like it anymore. But I would say that 4 to 6 weeks would be acceptable. If it is taking longer, then you really can go back to the editor and say, if I do not have the response within, let's say, 2 weeks or 1 month or whatever, given the reason for the delay, that you retire the manuscript and submit it elsewhere. And the other thing is publishing time. That can take sometimes months, but in these days, the larger editors, they publish already online if the final paper is not available yet. So they publish the manuscript already online so that people can use it. And the final, let's say, paper is sometimes months later.
Okay, thank you so much for the answer, Professor Nico. The next question was for Professor Doralyn. Could you please answer it?
Yes, very good question, Dr. Watyati. So can you use a negative sentence? Yes, of course you can use that. As long as it is accurate, that it reflects that your study, yeah, you can use negative sentences on that case. No one can hold you back on creating your title. Again, it must be cohesive with, as long as it's cohesive with the results and what your findings, then you can use them.
Okay, yeah, I think the questions are all answered. Thank you for the answers as well. I think we still have time for one person if there is another question. So yeah, is there any other questions from the audience? No? Okay, so if there is no question, I think I would like to ask the final statement for each speaker. What is your recommendation for preparing the paper and how to choose the journal? Yeah, a brief recommendation. Okay, maybe from the Professor Nico, please.
Yeah, I think it is difficult in a few words.
Yeah, no.
Because we had 3 hours almost.
Yes,
with good advices. But one thing is, I think, indeed, what I said is you have to have good research and a good research question and good experiments and good data. And if that is the case, then already the majority of the job has been done, because the writing is a matter of let's say, other work, which you can do at home, which you can do during the night, and so on. It is not lab work, it is really thinking and writing and discussing with your colleagues who have contributed to the paper. And then I would say, having the criteria for a good manuscript, which are in these presentations you had, or of a good review, which you had as well, then you simply take, let's say, the criteria on paper. And for example, I have selected from a previous paper, let's say, the slides for myself, which I am going to use tomorrow when we discuss the manuscripts. I'm simply going to ask, did you fulfill the criteria of the title? Did you fulfill the criteria of the authorship? Did you fulfill the criteria of the abstract, and so on? Up until, did you give the appropriate style of references, for example? So I think it is a kind of system which you indeed systematically follow and check and recheck and discuss with your colleagues in order to write the review. And the other thing is maybe, and then I'm finished, you also should consider having the good co-authors for a research paper, or co-authors for a review paper with specific expertises, in order to help you in optimizing the system as much as possible. And then I think you should simply try, start, make mistakes in the beginning, no problem. You try again and submit it again to another journal, maybe, but just simply try because that's the best way to work.
Okay, very good motivation, yeah, for us, especially for me, because yeah,
Okay.
I'm still a young lecturer, so yeah, I have
Okay.
to be motivated for writing. Thank you very
Okay.
much. And then the second one is from Professor Dato Ibrahim Jantan.
I think from Nico has mentioned it all. I just re-emphasize about I think it's not our choice actually. The language used, the scientific language used is English. I think there are many good scientists in Indonesia. I have been working with many Indonesian scientists, many students working in my lab from Indonesia. They are good, excellent. And one of the main problems are communication. It's English. So the writing skill. So what you need to do is, of course, it's not your first language, but it can always be. It's technical English. Technical English is not as difficult as the proper English in literature, right? But technical English is need practice actually. How to make a long sentence, make it brief, concise, and bring the same meaning. And that need practice. I think if you can do that, it's moving forward towards publication, especially in what I'm talking today, in review article. Review article published, you want to publish an article, the English should be very good. If you submit a review article and the English is poor, they don't send it to reviewer, the editor in chief, and the section editor in charge of review will immediately reject it. So I think the first impression is very important. So I think a good writing skill in the English language, the technical writing, what you need to do is practice, practice, and practice. Practice makes perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Many thanks indeed for your suggestion and advices. And last but not least, could you please give us motivational words, Professor Dorlin?
So they have given, Prof. Ibrahim and Prof. Nico given a really good advice. I will add something to that. Commitment. Put your commitment on it, because when you don't have the commitment, that paper will just be there. It will not be written, and again, and also toughen up your feelings. Don't be frustrated. That's how the game works. Do a lot of writing and revisions and revision. Rejection, accept it, and use whatever the reviewers' comments to make your next revision better. Don't cry on that. It will help you develop your next revision. So take it on a very constructive way rather than destructive. So commitment and toughen up your feelings, because that's how it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Prof. Nico, please.
I have one addition.
Yeah.
Several years ago, I already advised UI, Facultas Farmacie,
yes,
to assist people in writing with writing advisor, or ask the university to have an office for optimizing English grammar in scientific papers. I'm not sure whether it is already available in your faculty, but at least I suggested that several times and several years already. And I guess that would be a very good help and a very good investment of the faculty if they helped their juniors in scientific writing, really by reading and correcting and reviewing before submission. And if not, then you should advise your dean again and ask him to do so.
Okay. Okay. Thank
Sorry.
you so much. No problem at all. It is very good recommendation for our faculty because it is very beneficial for our future, especially for us, the young lecturers, the assistants from that how to say that, maybe proofreader in English, to improve our paper. Thanks very much.
Certainly. Yeah.
Okay. So with that, we come to the end of this webinar. Again, I'd like to thank our honorable guests for sparing their time to join us today. And I would especially like to thank Professor Formulen, Professor Dalisay, and Professor Ibrahim Jantan for their excellent presentations. I also thank to the committee for initiating this webinar, and my thanks also goes to participants for the enthusiastically participating in this webinar and ask interesting questions. I hope you found this webinar useful. Thank you again and have a great day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay. Good evening.
Okay. May I have one question?
Oh, yes, please.
Yes. For tomorrow, the manuscripts will be reviewed.
Okay.
And yes, and that will be done in separate breakout rooms, as I understand.
Yes.
Where we have quite some time per manuscript, 25 minutes in my case, to discuss the quality of the manuscript. Is that correct?
The committee, could you please answer the question?
Yes, that's all correct, Professor.
Okay. So then we will see how the authors, let's say, learned from this exercise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully, we can apply this knowledge.